Have you ever wondered why some people work hard their entire lives yet still struggle with money, while others, who don't seem to work any harder, keep getting richer and more financially free? Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki takes you on a journey to find the answer. This isn't just a book about money, it's about mindset. It's about how the rich think, use, and turn money into a tool, while the poor and middle class let money control their lives. Along the way, you'll hear the story of two fathers, one highly educated, hardworking, yet constantly drowning in debt, and another, less educated, but someone who understood the secrets of money and became wealthy and free. Join me on this journey of discovery, and who knows, this might just be the beginning of the biggest shift in your own financial mindset. And don't forget to hit like and follow the channel so you won't miss more life-changing books on money and personal growth. Chapter 1. The Rich Don't Work for Money. Imagine you're a 9-year-old boy. You see the people around you rushing to work from morning to night, only to complain about not having enough money, not having enough time. You wonder, why is it like this? Is there another way to live? This is the story of Robert Kiyosaki, the author of this book. He had two fathers, one poor, one rich. And from a very young age, he learned an important lesson. The rich don't work for money. When Robert and his best friend Mike were only 9 years old, they became curious about why some people were rich while others were poor. They went to Rich Dad, Mike's father, to learn. But Rich Dad didn't answer them directly. Instead, he gave them a small job at his convenience store, paying them only 10 cents an hour. After a few weeks, Robert grew frustrated. He thought, "This isn't fair. I'm working hard, but the pay is so low. I'm not learning anything at all." So he went to Rich Dad and demanded a raise. Rich Dad just smiled and said, "This is how most people live their entire lives. They work hard, hoping for higher pay. They think that if they make more money, they'll finally be happy. But the truth is, even if their salary increases, they stay stuck in the same cycle. Work, earn, spend, and then need more money all over again." Rich Dad explained, "The poor and middle class work for money. The rich learn to make money work for them." What does that mean? Instead of trading your time and labor for a paycheck, you must learn to invest, to build assets, and to make money a tool that generates more money for you. He added, "If you let the fear of not having money control you, you'll accept any job just to have income. But if you learn to master that fear, you'll start finding ways to break free from dependence on a paycheck." This first lesson was like a wake-up call. It wasn't easy to accept, especially for a child. But Robert realized that escaping the endless cycle required a shift in mindset, and that lesson stayed with him for life. Rich Dad continued, "Most people are driven by two emotions, fear and greed. They fear not having money, so they settle for jobs they don't like, working hard, but never daring to change. And when they do get money, they want more. Greed takes over. They want a bigger house, a nicer car, better things. These two emotions make people slaves to money. They don't realize that the more they chase money, the more they let money control their lives." He advised Robert, "You can't let emotions run your life. Learn to use reason. Learn to observe and learn. When you master your emotions, then you can master money." Rich Dad didn't just teach with words, he used that low-paying job as a real-life test. Robert recalled, "At first I was angry. I thought he was exploiting me. But then I began to observe. Why was he paying so little? Why were the other employees willing to work for years without complaining?" As he reflected, Robert realized they were afraid of change. They chose short-term security over long-term opportunity. They gave up learning and growth for the comfort of a steady paycheck. Rich Dad smiled. "Exactly. When you start observing instead of just reacting, you're learning. That's the difference between the rich and the poor." He emphasized, it's not about how much money you make, it's about how much you keep and how well you make it grow. He pointed out that some people win millions in the lottery, yet within a few years are back to nothing. Meanwhile, others start with very little, but with the right mindset, they build massive wealth and freedom. The takeaway was clear. Mindset matters more than income. The poor and middle class focus only on wages. The rich focus on financial thinking and how money really works. Finally, Rich Dad concluded, if you want to be rich, you must learn to make money work for you. Don't just work for money, work to learn. Learn to observe, learn to do business, learn to manage your emotions, and learn to build assets. This was the very first lesson, the foundation for everything that would follow in Rich Dad, Poor Dad. As an adult, Robert Kiyosaki applied this philosophy to his life. Instead of following the traditional academic path his poor dad wanted, he focused on building assets and investing. The result? He became one of the world's most renowned investors, entrepreneurs, and authors. Chapter 2. Why teach financial literacy? In the previous chapter, we learned the first lesson. The rich don't work for money. But what allows them to make money work for them? The answer lies in financial education. In school, we're taught how to read, how to write, and how to do math. But almost no one teaches us how to manage money. And that's exactly why, no matter how good someone is academically, many still struggle financially for their entire lives. In this chapter, Rich Dad explains, if you want to be rich, you must learn a kind of knowledge that schools will never teach you. Rich Dad said, many people think that if they get a high-paying job, they'll escape financial trouble. But the reality is, the more they earn, the more they spend. They buy a bigger house, a nicer car, more expensive things. And in the end, they still never have enough. This is what he called the rat race. You work hard, earn money, spend it, then need more money, and the cycle repeats for life. Poor Dad, Robert's biological father, was a perfect example. He was highly educated, respected in society, and had a stable income. But every time his salary increased, his living expenses rose with it. As a result, he was never free from financial pressure. Meanwhile, Rich Dad had a completely different perspective. He said, the difference between the rich and the poor isn't how much they earn, but how they manage their money. The poor and middle class focus on income, their salary. The rich focus on assets, things that generate cash flow, even when they're not working. That's why someone earning less can still end up wealthier over time if they invest in assets, while a high earner who only spends will remain financially stuck. Rich Dad taught Robert and Mike a simple principle, one that separates the rich from the poor. An asset puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket. For example, a rental property that brings in monthly income is an asset. The house you live in, with mortgage payments, maintenance, and taxes, is actually a liability. The rich focus on building their asset column, things that generate long-term cash flow. The poor and middle class often accumulate liabilities, mistakenly thinking they're assets. This common mistake is why most people never become wealthy. Recall that Poor Dad often advised, study hard so you can get a secure job with a high salary. But Rich Dad said, if you want to be rich, you must learn to read numbers, to understand how money works. Rich Dad explained that financial literacy is a survival skill. You can make a lot of money, but if you don't know how to manage it, it will slip away. He shared that millions of lottery winners end up broke after just a few years.
Why? Because it's not money that makes someone rich. It's knowledge and financial mindset. Rich Dad revealed a harsh truth. Schools teach you how to become a good employee, but they don't teach you how to master money. You might learn how to become a doctor, engineer, or teacher, but almost no one teaches you how to manage income, how to invest, how to build passive cash flow. That's why many highly educated people, even professors and PhDs, still struggle financially. Rich Dad offered a clear picture. Everyone has two columns in their financial life: the asset column and the liability column. The poor and middle class expand their liability column: debt, loans, and rising expenses. The rich focus on growing their asset column: real estate, stocks, bonds, businesses, intellectual property. He said, a person's wealth is not measured by their monthly salary, but by the size of their asset column. Once your assets are big enough, they'll support your life, even if you don't work anymore. Finally, Rich Dad concluded, the most important thing you must learn in life is to know the difference between assets and liabilities. Focus on buying assets. If you do that, you'll become rich. If you only accumulate liabilities, you'll always struggle financially. Robert realized Rich Dad never said you had to make huge amounts of money. Instead, he emphasized financial thinking, something schools never teach. And this became the second big lesson. Financial education is the foundation of wealth and freedom.
Chapter 3. Mind Your Own Business. In the previous chapter, we learned how to distinguish between assets and liabilities, the core foundation of financial education. Now, Rich Dad teaches a new lesson: mind your own business. Most people spend their entire lives working in someone else's business, for a company, for a boss, or for the government. But the rich think differently. They focus on their own business, meaning they focus on building and nurturing their personal asset column. So how can you do the same? Let's find out. Rich Dad explained, there's a common misunderstanding. People think their profession is their business, but it's not. If you're a doctor, then your profession is medicine, but your real business should be your personal finances, where you invest, what you build, and how you create long-term income. The poor and middle class usually concentrate only on developing their careers. They go to school, get jobs, climb the ladder, and earn more money. But because they don't focus on building assets, even after a lifetime of hard work, they remain trapped in the money game. He emphasized, remember, your real job is not your day job. Your real job is to build your asset column. Rich Dad taught Robert and Mike, the rich invest their time, energy, and money into buying assets. Everyone else spends their time buying liabilities, thinking they're getting richer. For example, the middle class often buys a bigger house when they make more money, but that's a liability. It just adds more expenses. The rich buy rental properties, stocks, or start small businesses. These investments create steady cash flow and support them over the long term. Rich Dad concluded, don't chase liabilities just to prove your success to others. Quietly build your assets. That's your true business. Robert noticed that most people, when they earn more, immediately raise their standard of living. They buy a new car, luxury items, or a bigger home. As a result, their monthly expenses rise with their income. Rich Dad called this the spending trap. It makes people feel like they're getting richer, but in reality, they're locking themselves into more debt and more obligations. The rich do the opposite. When their income increases, they don't increase their spending. Instead, they use the difference to buy more assets. This patience and discipline is what creates a massive difference over time. Rich Dad advised, "No one expects you to own a big company right away. Start small. You can invest a little in stocks, buy a small piece of land, or start a side business alongside your main job. The point isn't the size at the beginning, it's the habit. If you keep building and nurturing your asset column, over time it will grow big enough to free you from your daily job." This lesson shows that wealth doesn't appear overnight. It comes from a series of small but smart decisions, repeated consistently over the years. At the end of the chapter, Rich Dad reminded, "Your day job only covers your current expenses, but your true business is building and expanding your asset column. Don't be fooled by salary, job titles, or the appearance of wealth. The truly rich are those whose assets generate income even when they're not working." And that is the third lesson. Focus on building your own business, your personal asset column. Now that you understand the importance of building assets, we move on to Chapter 4, where Rich Dad reveals another secret: the power of taxes and corporations, and how they help the rich get richer.
Chapter 4: The History of Taxes and the Power of Corporations. In the previous chapters, we talked about assets, liabilities, and the importance of building your own business. But there's another factor, just as important, that has widened the gap between the rich and the poor. That factor is taxes and the power of corporations. At school, we're taught that taxes exist to share the burden, that the rich contribute more to society. But Rich Dad taught Robert a completely different truth. It's actually the poor and middle class who pay the most in taxes. Meanwhile, the rich know how to use corporations and the law to protect their wealth. Rich Dad explained, taxes were first introduced with the promise of taxing the rich to help the poor. But over time, the burden shifted to the middle class, the employees. Why is that? Because the rich have companies, assets, and legal ways to minimize taxes. The poor have little to tax. And so the middle class, those earning steady wages, end up carrying the heaviest tax load. Robert realized the contrast between his two dads. Poor Dad, a government employee, worked hard but always had taxes taken directly from his paycheck. Rich Dad, on the other hand, used his businesses to control cash flow and was rarely taxed the same way. Rich Dad explained, a company isn't just a place of business, it's also a legal financial shield. Employees work, earn, and pay taxes first, then spend what's left. The rich build corporations, spend and invest first, and then pay taxes only on what's remaining. For example, if a business owner earns $100,000, they can first deduct expenses like cars, travel, meals, or staff salaries, and then pay taxes on what's left. But if an employee earns the same $100,000, taxes are taken off the top, and they only get to spend what's left. This difference creates a massive gap. Rich Dad emphasized, the game was never fair, but if you're willing to learn, you can make the rules work for you. Poor Dad was the perfect example of lacking financial knowledge. He believed in security, that if he studied hard and worked hard, the government would take care of him. In reality, his income was slowly eaten away by taxes. Rich Dad, on the other hand, stressed that the rich aren't necessarily smarter. They just take the time to learn about money and the law. That knowledge gives them the edge schools will never provide. And once again, the lesson was clear. The difference isn't how much you earn, but how much you keep and how well you make it grow. And at the end of the chapter, Rich Dad reminded, Never think the game is fair. It never was. But if you're willing to learn, you can turn the game into your advantage. Robert understood. Relying on a high-paying job means you'll always be a victim of taxes and expenses. Only by learning to build assets, create companies, and apply financial knowledge can you truly step into the world of the rich. And this was the fourth lesson. The rich understand the power of corporations and taxes. They don't just work hard to earn money, they learn how to protect it and multiply it.
Chapter 5. The Rich Invent Money. In the earlier chapters, Rich Dad taught Robert the difference between assets and liabilities and the power of corporations and tax laws. But those were only the foundations. Now, Rich Dad posed a bigger question. What will you do when you face financial challenges? When you have no money, how will you respond? For the poor and middle class, the common answers are, I can't afford this, or I don't have enough. But the rich ask a very different question. How can I afford it? That's the creative mindset the rich use to invent money. Rich Dad explained, when you say, I can't afford it, your brain shuts down. But when you ask, how can I afford it, your brain starts working, searching for solutions. The poor often close their minds with statements. The rich open their minds with questions, turning problems into opportunities for creativity. Robert realized this simple habit of asking the right questions is what allowed Rich Dad to constantly find new ways to invest, build businesses, and create streams of income. Rich Dad shared, the poor often think opportunities are only for the lucky. But the truth is, opportunities are always around us. Not everyone sees them. The rich train themselves to seek and recognize opportunities. When markets crash, the poor panic and sell off their assets. The rich see it as a chance to buy at bargain prices. Robert remembered Rich Dad saying, every time the economy shifts, some people lose and others get rich. The difference isn't the economy. It's how people see it and how they respond. Rich Dad emphasized that inventing money requires more than knowledge. It requires courage. He said, the poor and middle class are often held back by fear. They fear failure, they fear losing money, so they never try. The rich treat failure as a lesson. Every setback teaches them something new, and next time they do better. That is the big difference. While the poor avoid risk, the rich learn how to manage risk, and by doing so, they gain the courage to innovate and turn ideas into real money. Rich Dad often advised Robert, if you want to invent money, keep learning and keep taking action. Knowledge gives you confidence, but action creates results. He encouraged Robert to read books, attend classes, meet successful people, but above all, to experiment. Because only through action do you learn the real lessons. The rich don't wait for opportunities to come. They create opportunities through constant learning, trying, and doing. At the end of this lesson, Rich Dad said, money isn't limited. It's like ideas. The more creative you are, the more you learn, the more ways you'll find to create it. The rich don't work hard just to earn money. They work hard to seek opportunities, to learn, and from there, they invent money. Robert realized this mindset was what set Rich Dad apart. He never allowed himself to be limited by circumstances. Instead, he always asked, how can I turn this situation into an opportunity? And that is the fifth lesson. The rich invent money. They don't sit and wait for luck. They turn creativity and courage into concrete action. Chapter 6. Work to learn, don't work for money. By this point, Robert had learned that the rich know how to invent money and how to use corporations and the law to protect it. But Rich Dad kept reminding him of something even more important. Don't work just for money. Work to learn. Rich Dad said, money is temporary. Skills are the real assets. If you have skills, you can create money anywhere, under any circumstances.
Robert's poor dad was the perfect example of the trap many people fall into. He was an excellent teacher, highly educated, with advanced degrees and strong expertise, but he only knew one field. That left him completely dependent on his government job. Rich Dad taught specializing too early can make you good at one thing, but weak at managing your financial life. The rich are different. They learn broadly. They understand business, sales, investing, and people management. That diversity of skills is what gives them freedom. Employees usually focus only on their specialty. The rich focus on learning how to run the entire system. Rich Dad insisted, if you can't sell, it will be very hard for you to become rich. Every business depends on the ability to sell a product or service. Robert was once very shy about selling, but Rich Dad made him learn. He advised, take a sales job even if the pay is low. Sales and communication skills will help you persuade, connect, and open doors to countless opportunities in the future. Rich Dad emphasized that the poor and middle class usually work for a paycheck. The rich choose jobs based on the skills they can gain, not the money they receive right away. Robert remembered Rich Dad's words, "The poor work for security. The rich work for freedom." Many people settle for a stable job and a steady paycheck because it gives them a sense of safety. But that very sense of safety keeps them trapped, never escaping the endless cycle of money worries. Rich Dad taught Robert, if you want to be rich, don't be afraid of change. Try new jobs, learn new skills, and see every experience as an investment in yourself. Throughout his youth, Robert took on many different jobs: sales, marketing, aviation, even the military. None of these were for making lots of money. They were to gain skills, leadership, communication, teamwork, and investment. It was this wide range of experiences that gave Robert a solid foundation when he later started businesses and investments. He understood that money comes and goes, but skills last forever. Rich Dad concluded, money isn't limited. It's like ideas. The more creative you are, the more you learn, the more ways you'll find to create it. The rich don't work hard just to earn money. They work hard to seek opportunities, to learn, and from there, they invent money. Robert realized this mindset was what set Rich Dad apart. He never allowed himself to be limited by circumstances. Instead, he always asked, how can I turn this situation into an opportunity? And that is the sixth lesson. The rich work to learn, not just for money. Build skills, knowledge, and experience. That's the true foundation for lasting financial freedom. And so, the key lessons from Rich Dad became clear. Understanding assets and liabilities, knowing the power of corporations, inventing money, and learning skills instead of just chasing paychecks.
Chapter 7. Overcoming Obstacles. You've learned about assets and liabilities, how to create money, and how to work to build skills. But Robert admits a hard truth. Most people know what they should do, yet they never become rich. Why is that? Because between knowledge and action, there are always invisible barriers. In this chapter, Robert reveals the 5 biggest obstacles that anyone must overcome in order to become wealthy. The first and greatest obstacle is the fear of losing money. Robert said, everyone is afraid of losing. The rich are afraid too, but the difference is they don't let fear control them. Rich Dad taught that failure is part of the process of success. The rich don't avoid failure, they learn from it. Meanwhile, the poor often let fear stop them from even getting started. Rich Dad once said a memorable line, "Winners are not afraid of losing. Losers are. Failure is part of the game." The second obstacle is doubt. People often ask themselves, what if I fail? What if the market crashes? What if people laugh at me? Doubt causes many to miss opportunities. The rich also consider risks, but instead of letting doubt paralyze them, they act to find the answers. Robert realized, whenever an investment opportunity appears, the poor hesitate and stand still. The rich study, analyze, and then try. That difference determines who moves forward and who stays behind. Surprisingly, laziness is another silent enemy of financial success. Rich Dad didn't define laziness as lying on the couch all day. He said, laziness is when you keep yourself busy to avoid what really matters. For example, many people say, "I'm too busy. I don't have time to learn about investing." They don't realize that being busy is often just an excuse to avoid facing their financial problems. The rich are different. They make time for what truly matters: learning, seeking opportunities, managing money, instead of being consumed by endless small tasks. Rich Dad stressed, habits shape your financial future. Many people have the habit of paying others first, paying bills, paying debts, spending money, and only then thinking about saving or investing. As a result, they never have anything left to build assets. The rich do the opposite. They pay themselves first. The moment they receive income, they immediately set aside a portion to invest in assets. Only then do they use what remains for expenses. This habit allows them to grow their wealth steadily instead of constantly chasing bills. The final obstacle is arrogance. Rich Dad said, when you're arrogant, you stop listening. And when you stop listening, you start learning. That's when you start losing. Many people believe they already know enough, or their pride keeps them from admitting mistakes. That ego blocks them from learning from others. The rich, however, stay humble enough to keep learning. They aren't afraid to admit when they're wrong, and they aren't afraid to ask for guidance. That humility helps them grow and progress much faster. Chapter 8. Starting your journey. You've heard the 7 lessons from Rich Dad: understanding assets and liabilities, building financial literacy, learning how to create money, working to learn, and overcoming mental barriers. But all of this is just theory unless you take action. In this chapter, Robert shares specific steps that anyone, whether you're a student, an employee, or a business owner, can take to begin the journey toward financial freedom. He calls them 10 steps to getting rich. Step 1. Decide why you really want to be rich. Robert emphasizes, if your motivation isn't strong enough, you'll quit at the first sign of difficulty. Rich Dad used to say, money alone won't drive you. You need a reason bigger than money. Some people want wealth to take care of their families. Others want freedom from the grind of a job. Some simply want the liberty to live life on their own terms. Write down your reason. It will be the fire that carries you through every challenge. Step 2. Make conscious choices. Every day, you have the power to choose, to learn or not learn, to spend or invest, to let money control you or to control money. The poor often say, I don't have a choice. But the truth is, you always do. You just may not see it. Robert advises, whenever you face a financial decision, ask yourself, does this choice bring me closer to financial freedom or further away from it? Step 3. Choose your friends carefully. Rich Dad once said, if you want to soar like an eagle, don't hang around chickens. Your environment and the people around you shape your financial mindset. If your circle is filled with people who fear risk and crave only safety, it's hard to step forward boldly. But when you surround yourself with successful people, you naturally absorb how they think, how they spot opportunities, and how they overcome challenges. Step 4. Master one financial formula, then learn a new one.
Robert explains that the poor often cling to a single formula: go to school, get a job, earn a paycheck. But the world changes, and that formula no longer guarantees success. The rich are always seeking new formulas. They learn to invest in real estate, stocks, businesses, or systems. Rich Dad advised Robert, whenever you see a new opportunity, don't rush to say, "I don't know." Instead, ask yourself, how can I learn? Step 5, develop self-discipline. Robert says, winners are not always the smartest, but they are always the most disciplined. You may know how to invest, but if you can't control fear or greed, you'll lose. You may earn a high income, but without discipline to save and invest, you'll end up with nothing. Rich Dad always reminded him, personal discipline is more important than financial knowledge. Robert continues with more action steps. Step 6. Pay well for good advisors. Don't be cheap when it comes to expert guidance, because the right advice can make you far more money in return. Step 7. Give and you shall receive. The rich believe in sharing both knowledge and wealth. Step 8. Focus. Once you choose a direction, pour yourself into becoming the best in that field. Step 9. Learn how to use debt and taxes. The poor fear debt. The rich use it to grow. The poor complain about taxes. The rich learn how to manage them strategically. Step 10. Take action now. Knowledge is only potential power. Action is what turns it into results. Robert concludes, wealth doesn't come from luck. It comes from preparation, discipline, and action. Anyone can begin as long as they decide to take the first step today. Rich Dad often said, remember, you don't have to be perfect to start, but you do have to start to become perfect. And that is the final lesson. Begin your journey. At this point, the core principles of Rich Dad, Poor Dad have been shared. The only question left is, are you ready to take action to change your financial life? My dear friend, we've just completed the journey through Rich Dad, Poor Dad, a book that has transformed the financial mindset of millions around the world. From Rich Dad's lessons, you've seen that the difference isn't in how much money you make, but how you think about money, how you use it, and how you turn it into a tool for freedom. Remember, the path to financial freedom isn't a giant leap, but a series of small, consistent steps taken every day. And most importantly, it begins today. If you found this audiobook helpful, please hit like and follow this channel so you won't miss the next books, timeless classics that will continue to expand your financial mindset, change the way you see money, and bring you closer to true wealth and freedom. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next audiobook.
My friend, the book you're about to listen to is the result of more than 25 years of research, during which Napoleon Hill interviewed over 500 of the world's wealthiest and most successful people, including Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, and many of the leading billionaires of that era. From this monumental work came 13 principles of thinking, timeless laws that can help anyone, no matter their background, rise from nothing to achieve wealth and success. So listen carefully, and most importantly, put these principles into practice, because this isn't just a book, it's a roadmap to prosperity. And don't forget to hit like and follow the channel so you won't miss more life-changing books on wealth and personal growth. Principle 1. Desire, the starting point of all achievement. Every great success begins with a burning desire, not just a vague wish, but a fire so strong it pushes you to take action despite obstacles.
Napoleon Hill tells the story of Edwin C. Barnes, a poor man who dreamed of becoming Thomas Edison's business partner. Barnes had no money, no connections, but he had a fierce desire. He went straight to Edison and declared, "I want to work with you, not as an employee, but as a partner." Edison saw something different in Barnes's eyes, a determination that could not be shaken. And in the end, Barnes turned that desire into reality, becoming Edison's trusted associate. Hill emphasizes desire is not mere hope or wishful thinking. It is a longing so powerful that you are willing to give up everything to achieve it. You can't just say, "I want to be rich." You must clearly define the exact amount of money you want, the time frame in which you want to achieve it, and the plan you will follow. That clarity transforms desire into power, because your subconscious mind will act upon what you truly believe and repeat consistently. Napoleon Hill outlines 6 practical steps to turn desire into reality. Define the exact amount of money you want. Decide what you are willing to give in return for that money. Set a specific deadline for achieving your goal. Create a detailed plan of action and begin immediately, whether you feel ready or not. Write out a clear statement of your goal. Read this statement aloud at least twice a day, once in the morning when you wake up and once before bed until you have complete faith that you will achieve it. Hill said, "A desire written down, repeated over and over, and fueled with faith becomes an unstoppable force." Principle 2. Faith, the power to turn desire into reality. Desire is the starting point, but without faith, desire is nothing more than an empty dream. Napoleon Hill teaches that faith is a state of mind, one that can be created and strengthened through repetition, autosuggestion, and positive visualization. He calls faith the catalyst, the force that transforms ideas in your mind into concrete plans and from there into reality. If you believe you can become wealthy, you will act very differently than someone who believes they were born to be poor. Hill highlights the power of autosuggestion, the practice of repeating positive affirmations until your subconscious accepts them as truth. For example, instead of saying, "I'll never have money," affirm every single day, "I believe I will have blank amount of money by blank date. I believe in my ability and my plan. I believe the universe supports my desire." At first, this may feel unrealistic, but over time, these affirmations sink into your subconscious, turning belief into part of who you are. And once faith is rooted deeply within you, your actions naturally align with your goals. Hill concludes, "Faith is the bridge between desire and achievement. Without faith, desire is just an illusion. But when desire is reinforced by faith, it becomes a mental force strong enough to overcome any obstacle." Remember, you don't need to see the entire path to begin. You just need to believe in the first step, and faith will carry you forward. Principle 3. Autosuggestion, the tool for planting seeds in the subconscious mind. Autosuggestion is the bridge between the conscious and the subconscious. It is the practice of repeating positive thoughts, words, and images until they take root deep within your mind. Napoleon Hill teaches that you are the product of what you tell yourself every single day. If you constantly say, "I can't do it," your subconscious will make that true. But if you affirm, "I will achieve it," and repeat it with strong belief, your subconscious will begin to work in your favor to bring that desire into reality. In other words, autosuggestion is how you reprogram your mind to move towards success. Hill provides a clear method of practice. Write down your financial goal, exactly how much money you want, the deadline, and your plan of action. Read this goal statement aloud at least twice a day, once in the morning when you wake up and once before bed. Speak with faith and intense emotion, as if the goal has already been achieved. Visualize yourself living that goal. The money in your account, the home, the car, or the lifestyle you desire. Hill emphasizes, only when you feel your goal in your heart will your subconscious truly accept it. Autosuggestion can make you rich, but it can also keep you poor if you allow negative thoughts to dominate. Many people tell themselves, "I'm not good enough, I'll never have money," or "rich people are greedy." And just as they affirm, their lives reflect those beliefs. That's why Hill warns, guard your mind like a soldier on duty. Do not allow negative thoughts to repeat themselves. Instead, plant positive seeds in your mind. Repeat them over and over until they become unshakable beliefs. Autosuggestion is the tool that imprints your desire onto your subconscious. Desire is the seed, faith is the fertile soil, and autosuggestion is the daily act of planting and watering that seed. If you persist, your subconscious will begin to attract the ideas, opportunities, and people necessary to turn your goals into reality. Remember this timeless truth: you become what you think about most of the time. So choose your thoughts carefully.
Principle 4. Specialized knowledge, the path to turning ideas into wealth. Many people believe that knowledge itself is power, but Napoleon Hill makes it clear. Knowledge only becomes powerful when it is organized and applied toward a definite purpose. There are countless people with advanced degrees who remain poor their entire lives. Why? Because they possess only general knowledge, not the specialized knowledge that solves problems, creates value, and generates wealth. In contrast, the wealthy and successful know how to focus on a single field, develop expertise, and then apply that knowledge toward their financial goals. Specialized knowledge doesn't have to come from a university. It can come from real-life experience, from your work, from books, from seminars, or by learning directly from mentors and those who have gone before you. More importantly, Hill stresses, you don't need to personally possess all the specialized knowledge you require. You can hire, collaborate with, or partner with those who do. Thomas Edison, Henry Ford, and Andrew Carnegie, three of the greatest industrial giants, were not geniuses in every area. Their genius was in assembling the right people with the right specialized knowledge and then using it to turn ideas into fortunes. Napoleon Hill writes, "The rich never stop investing in the development of their own minds." You can lose money, lose your job, even lose your possessions, but specialized knowledge is something no one can ever take from you. And if you have it, you can rebuild from scratch. So ask yourself, what kind of knowledge do I need to achieve my financial goals? Have I learned enough? What more must I study? Who can teach me? Investing in your mind is the single greatest investment you will ever make. This principle reminds us that wealth does not come from knowing everything. It comes from knowing how to use knowledge in the right way, at the right time, for the right purpose. General knowledge may help you survive, but only specialized knowledge will make you rich. So choose a field and train yourself to become the best you can be. Or, if you're a leader, learn how to gather experts around you. Because in the end, the difference between success and failure lies in your ability to harness knowledge. Principle 5. Imagination, the workshop of wealth. Napoleon Hill calls imagination the workshop of the human mind, because every invention, every fortune, and every great achievement begins with an idea. Look around you. The phone you use, the house you live in, even the book you're listening to right now, all of it once existed only as an idea in someone's mind.
Hill points out that the wealthy differ from the poor in one crucial way. They know how to use imagination to transform desire into concrete plans. They dare to think of new solutions, to try, to innovate, and that creativity becomes their source of wealth. Hill divides imagination into two types. Synthetic imagination, the ability to combine old ideas and existing knowledge to create something new. For example, Henry Ford didn't invent the wheel or the engine, but he combined them into the assembly line that revolutionized the automobile industry. Creative imagination, the ability to tap into the subconscious and the infinite intelligence of the universe, producing completely new ideas. This is the source of humanity's greatest inventions. Whichever type you use, the principle remains. Imagination only develops through use. Like a muscle, the more you exercise it, the stronger it becomes. Hill advises spend time vividly imagining your goals and brainstorm as many ways to achieve them as possible. Write down at least 10 ways you could earn money or reach your financial objective. Don't worry yet whether they're practical. Let your imagination run free first. Later, you can sort through and act on the best ones. The wealthy are not necessarily the smartest people, but they are certainly the ones who use their imagination more often than others. Hill concludes, every fortune begins with an idea. A single good idea fueled by desire, faith, and a plan can turn an ordinary person into a millionaire. You don't need to invent something world-changing. Sometimes, a simple idea that helps many people is enough to build wealth. So let your imagination work. Nurture it every day, because within your own mind may lie an idea worth millions of dollars. Principle 6. Organized planning, turning ideas into action. Desire is the seed, faith is the energy, imagination gives you the ideas. But all of this means nothing if it is not transformed into organized action. Napoleon Hill emphasizes successful people are those who make plans and follow them. In contrast, unsuccessful people often act on impulse, without strategy and without a clear direction. You may have a well-defined financial goal, but without a concrete action map, you'll get lost in a maze of opportunities and obstacles. A plan is the bridge that takes you from idea to reality. One of Hill's most important principles is this: you cannot and should not plan alone. Build your plan with a mastermind group, a team of people whose knowledge, experience, and skills complement your own. This, in fact, is the foundation of the mastermind principle that Hill explores in later chapters. Thomas Edison didn't invent the light bulb by himself. He had a team of scientists working alongside him. Henry Ford's success came not from his personal genius in every field, but from his ability to gather experts who were smarter than him. That's why the best plans are always the product of collaboration, not solo effort. Hill also teaches that no plan is perfect at the beginning. You will face failure, and that's normal. The unsuccessful quit when their first plan fails. The successful adapt, adjust, and try again with a new plan. That's why Hill advises always have a backup plan. Don't cling stubbornly to one single approach. If path A is blocked, take path B, then C. The plan is only a means. The goal is what truly matters. Organized planning is the process of turning desire and imagination into daily action. Hill writes, a person without a plan is planning to fail. So write out a clear plan. What will you do today, this week, this month to move closer to your financial goal? Build a supportive team around you. Learn to adjust when setbacks come. Because in the end, wealth does not come from vague ideas. It comes from plans that are executed with persistence and discipline. Principle 7.
Decision, the starting point of all success. Napoleon Hill observed that successful people develop the habit of making decisions quickly and changing them very slowly, if at all. On the other hand, unsuccessful people procrastinate, hesitate, change their minds often, and rarely take decisive action. Indecision is the enemy of desire. You may have a brilliant idea and a perfect plan, but if you do not decide to act, it will remain nothing more than a dream. Strong, definite decisions are the turning point where dreams become reality. Hill found that the single most common reason people fail is procrastination, the inability to make decisions. And behind procrastination always lies fear, fear of failure, fear of criticism, fear of losing money, fear of being wrong. But remember, every great success story is filled with failures along the way. The difference is that successful people refuse to let fear stop them from deciding and moving forward. Ask yourself, what is something I've wanted to do for a long time but haven't decided to start? Am I letting fear control me? The answer may hold the key to your next breakthrough in life. Throughout history, every revolution and every great change has begun with a single decision. For example, the 56 men who signed the Declaration of Independence made a bold and final decision, knowing it could cost them their lives. That decision reshaped the course of human history. On a personal level, a single timely decision, starting a business, making an investment, learning a new skill, or breaking a destructive habit can completely transform your life. Decision is a power we all possess, but not everyone dares to use it. Hill wrote, "The world has the habit of making way for the person who knows where they are going." Decision is the spark that ignites desire. It turns words into action and plans into reality. So from today forward, train yourself to decide more quickly, more clearly, and with greater resolute. Don't let your life slip away in hesitation. Choose the path you want, and the world will open the way for you. Principle 8. Persistence, the steady power that turns desire into reality. Napoleon Hill wrote, "A strong desire plus persistence equals success." Almost everyone has dreams, but the reason most people never achieve them is not because they lack intelligence or opportunity, it's because they lack persistence. Successful people are not those who have never failed, but those who never give up. Every time they fall, they rise again, learn the lesson, and keep moving forward. Remember this, failure is only a signal saying, "This way doesn't work, try another." And persistence is the power that keeps you going until you find the right path. Hill identified 4 major reasons why people quit. Lack of definite desire. If you don't truly crave success, you'll give up the moment things get hard. Lack of self-confidence. Those who don't believe in themselves won't have the courage to persist. Lack of a clear plan. Not knowing what to do next quickly leads to discouragement. Listening to others' opinions. Criticism, doubt, and negativity from those around you often destroy your determination. Do you recognize yourself in any of these? If so, remember, persistence begins when you eliminate these enemies. Persistence is not something you are born with, it is a habit you can develop. Hill suggests 4 steps to build persistence. Define a clear goal and a burning desire to achieve it. Create a definite plan and take daily action no matter how small. Refuse to let criticism or temporary failure discourage you. Build a mastermind group, people who will encourage you when you feel like quitting. Each day you practice persistence, your willpower grows stronger. Hill concludes, persistence is the dividing line between success and failure. Most people give up when they are just one step away from victory. Only those who persist reach the finish line. Remember, no one is ever truly defeated until they stop trying. Failure doesn't really exist. It is only a lesson on the road to success.
So if you have a great desire, ask yourself, do I have the persistence to see it through to the end? If your answer is yes, then success is already yours. Principle 9. The power of the mastermind. Napoleon Hill called the mastermind the secret principle that creates the real power of the wealthy. He defined it as the coordination of knowledge and effort in a spirit of harmony between two or more people for the attainment of a definite purpose. In other words, the mastermind is collective power. One person alone may be talented, but when many minds work together, sharing ideas, energy, and motivation, the strength multiplies many times over. That is why billionaires, inventors, and great leaders never walk alone. Behind each of them is always a mastermind group. Take Henry Ford as an example. He was not highly educated, but he surrounded himself with top experts in engineering, management, and finance. It was thanks to this mastermind group that Ford built an automobile empire that transformed the world. Thomas Edison did the same. In his laboratory, he worked with more than 30 brilliant scientists. Edison was the spark of ideas, but his team turned those ideas into reality. Hill emphasized, no one ever truly succeeds alone. Every great success is the result of an alliance. Hill went further to say that when two or more minds work together in harmony, an invisible power emerges, an energy of higher intelligence, almost like a third mind. Have you ever experienced this? When you're in conversation with a friend, ideas flow, creativity sparks, and insights appear that you would never have thought of on your own. That is the power of the mastermind. It's like connecting multiple batteries together to generate a much greater current. So how do you apply this principle? Build your own mastermind group. Find people who share your vision or who have skills that complement yours. Meet regularly. Discuss goals, plans, challenges, and work together on solutions. Keep harmony. A mastermind only works when there is respect and cooperation, not competition or conflict. Commit to mutual support. Each member must give as well as receive knowledge, energy, and encouragement. If you don't yet have a mastermind group, start building one today. It could be the turning point in your journey. Hill concludes that the mastermind is the fifth source of power you can tap into. Money, experience, and personal intelligence have limits, but when you connect with others, you create a force that is nearly unlimited. Success is never a solo act. It is the blending of many minds, many desires, and many hearts. So ask yourself, who will be in my mastermind group? Am I still walking alone? Or am I ready to connect and multiply my power? The answer may be the very key that unlocks the door to your wealth.
Principle 10. The mystery of sex transmutation. Napoleon Hill believed that sexual energy is the most powerful of all human emotions. When transmuted, that is, redirected away from mere physical gratification and toward creativity, ambition, leadership, art, or business, it becomes the driving force behind extraordinary achievement. Great men and women often possess intense desire, but what makes them remarkable is their ability to elevate that desire into passion, endurance, and vision. It is not about suppression, but about redirection. Channel emotional energy into goals and creative work. Cultivate love, romance, and harmonious intimacy. These higher emotions raise the vibration of thought and sharpen intelligence. Use music, movement, art, writing, and other creative outlets as transformers that convert raw energy into productivity and value. When properly transmuted, this energy gives you heightened focus, abundant imagination, greater stamina, more persuasive communication, and stronger leadership presence. Flashes of inspiration often appear more frequently when you are in love, deeply passionate, and at the same time, disciplined. Design your own transmutation ritual. Begin with 15 to 20 minutes of physical exercise, meditation, or uplifting music, then read your goals out loud. Dedicate 90 minutes of deep work to a creative project. Keep an emotional journal. Turn every surge of feeling into concrete action. Maintain discipline of both body and mind, adequate rest, regular training, so that your energy remains abundant and under control. Principle 11. The power of the subconscious mind. Napoleon Hill taught that the subconscious mind is the bridge between our human mind and the universe. It is the place where every idea, belief, and emotion is stored, and where they are quietly transformed into actions, habits, and ultimately, reality. Think of it this way. Your conscious mind is like the gardener planting seeds, while your subconscious is the soil. The soil doesn't care whether the seed is good or bad. It simply nurtures whatever is planted. If you sow belief, desire, and positive images, your subconscious will grow success. But if you sow fear, doubt, and negativity, failure will surely follow. The subconscious works around the clock, even when you sleep. It records and processes everything you think, hear, and feel. This means that every thought you repeat over and over becomes imprinted into your subconscious and eventually becomes a belief. That belief then shapes your emotions, drives your actions, and in the end, determines your destiny. That is why Napoleon Hill emphasized, you become what you think about most of the time. If you constantly dwell on wealth, your subconscious will guide you to actions that create wealth. If you constantly dwell on fear and scarcity, your subconscious will bring more of that into your reality as well. The good news is you can consciously program your subconscious mind. Hill suggested 3 powerful methods. Affirmations. Repeat positive statements about your goals, such as, I am becoming wealthier and more successful every day. Visualization. Each day, close your eyes and imagine yourself already living your goals. Feel the joy and pride as if it were real. Emotional intensity. The subconscious responds most strongly to emotion. So attach powerful feelings, faith, excitement, even anger at poverty to your desire. When repeated consistently, these practices leave deep impressions on your subconscious, turning it into an invisible partner working tirelessly to bring your goals to life. But remember, the subconscious does not judge right or wrong, good or bad. It simply carries out whatever you allow to enter. If you let criticism, doubt, negative news, or fear dominate your thoughts, you are planting harmful seeds, and one day they will grow into obstacles in your life. That is why Hill urged us, guard the gateway to your mind. Allow only positive ideas, emotions, and beliefs to enter. You are the gatekeeper of your subconscious. Never let anyone else plant destructive seeds in it. Hill concluded that the subconscious mind is a silent force, yet it holds the power to decide the difference between poverty and prosperity. If you learn to plant the right seeds, desire, faith, and positive imagery, your subconscious will open the path to success. So begin today. Write down your goals, repeat them with absolute conviction. Visualize yourself already achieving them every morning when you wake and every night before you sleep. Do this consistently, and you'll be amazed as life begins to shift in the exact direction you've programmed your subconscious to follow. Principle 12. The brain. Hill described the brain as both a broadcasting and receiving station for thought. When fueled by strong emotions, faith, love, enthusiasm, its broadcasting power increases, making it easier to pick up flashes of intuition, ideas from the subconscious, from your mastermind group, and even from what he called infinite intelligence. 3 natural amplifiers of the brain. Positive emotion, faith, desire. Read your affirmations with genuine feeling. Environment, mastermind, and input. Your brain synchronizes with the people and ideas you surround yourself with. Body, sleep, nutrition, movement. Physical health forms the foundation for both sending and receiving mental signals effectively. But just as the brain can be amplified, it can also be polluted. Doubt and negative information act like static on the signal. To protect your mental frequency, limit toxic input. Replace self-talk of "I can't" with "How can I?" Capture every hunch or sudden idea immediately, then test it through small practical action. A 15-minute daily practice to tune your brain. Breathe deeply and quiet your mind. Read your affirmations with strong emotion. Visualize the result as if it's already real. Ask your subconscious a clear question. What's my next leverage step? Write down 3 ideas that surface and act on at least one of them right away. With repetition, your brain becomes more finely tuned, able to catch the right signals at the right time, guiding you closer to your goals. Principle 13. The sixth sense. Hill described the sixth sense as a higher channel of intuition, a gateway through which infinite intelligence sends guidance. It cannot be learned through rigid formulas. Instead, it emerges naturally after you have disciplined yourself with the 12 prior principles: desire, faith, autosuggestion, imagination, persistence, the mastermind, and so on. It often arises as a sudden flash of inspiration, a subtle warning, or a deep knowing without explanation. The sixth sense doesn't replace reason. Your role is to receive it, record it, and then test it with small experiments before expanding your actions. How to invite the sixth sense. Create quiet moments, early morning, solitary walks. Use the question before sleep ritual. Ask a specific question at night, then write down the first idea that comes upon waking. Keep an intuition journal. Track your insights and rate their accuracy over time. This builds trust in your inner guidance system. When intuition and logic align, decisions become fast and accurate. When they don't, pause briefly and gather more data. Over time, you'll sense the exact sweet spot for major action. Hill called this the pinnacle of personal development, the stage where you can see the path ahead before others even recognize it. My dear friend, we've just walked through all 13 timeless principles of Think and Grow Rich, a book that has transformed the financial mindset of millions around the world. But the most important thing is not that you've listened to them all. It's that you start taking action today. By applying even the smallest principle consistently each day, you will begin to see changes, not only in your financial life, but also in your confidence and self-belief. If you found these insights valuable, don't forget to hit like and follow this channel so you won't miss the upcoming audiobooks, powerful books that will reshape your financial thinking, expand the way you see money, and guide you to true wealth and freedom. Thank you for listening. I'll see you in the next journey.
where more great books will continue to walk with you on the path to success and prosperity.
If you've ever heard of Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, you already know it's like a wake-up call. Money doesn't just come from a paycheck. It comes from how you see it and how you use it. But Kiyosaki didn't stop there. He went on to create another powerful framework, the Cashflow Quadrant. This map shows why some people work hard their entire lives, while others gradually move toward financial freedom. The interesting part is, most people don't even realize they're standing in one of those quadrants. The way you earn money, how you spend your time, and even how you think about risk, all of it is reflected in this quadrant. So the real question is, which corner of the financial map are you in? And if you want to break free from the cycle of never enough, where do you need to move? Let's dive in and find out. And if you find this video helpful, don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you won't miss future book summaries on financial freedom and new ways of thinking about money here on my channel. Part 1, E, Employee. In the cash flow quadrant, the letter E stands for employee, the largest group in society, people who work for a paycheck. For most of us, this is where the financial journey begins. It sounds straightforward, but it actually hides a lot of paradoxes. A typical employee trades time and effort for a fixed salary. On the surface, this looks safe. Every 2 weeks or at the end of the month, you get your paycheck. The company covers health insurance, a 401k, retirement plan, a few weeks of vacation, and maybe even a year-end bonus. Americans grow up in a system where having a stable job is seen as part of the American dream. Yet, Kiyosaki warns that this so-called security is just an illusion. Your livelihood depends on decisions made by your boss or your company, not by you. Think back to the Great Recession of 2008. When the housing bubble burst, millions of Americans lost their jobs in just a few months. People who once believed the job at a bank, a car manufacturer, or a big insurance firm meant guaranteed security suddenly found themselves unemployed, unable to pay their mortgages, and lining up for unemployment checks. The same thing happened again in 2020, when the pandemic forced businesses to shut down. Thousands of hotel workers, restaurant staff, and airline employees were let go with just one email or phone call. Even in industries that seem rock solid, employees can escape risk. A software engineer in Silicon Valley might earn $150,000 a year, but if the company restructures, that position can disappear overnight. Healthcare, once considered stable, saw countless nurses and doctors burn out and leave the profession after the pandemic. These stories prove one thing: a salary isn't real security, it's dependency. But there is an even deeper limit: time. No matter how hard you work, you only have 24 hours in a day. An employee's income is tied directly to the hours they put in. A promotion might mean more money, but it also brings heavier responsibilities and higher stress. Many Americans fall into the cycle of work more, spend more, still feel short. They grind through the week only to wait for payday as if it were a lifeline. Picture this: a 40-year-old office worker, loyal to the same company for 20 years. He pays his mortgage each month, saves for his kids' college, and sets aside a little for retirement. But if the company suddenly downsizes, his entire life plan collapses. Decades of loyalty and late nights at the office vanish in an instant. Robert Kiyosaki doesn't dismiss the employee quadrant. He admits it can be an important starting point, a place to gain skills, build discipline, and accumulate initial savings. But if you stop here, you'll always be working for someone else's dream. You're helping build the owner's vision, while your own dreams get left behind. That's the harsh truth of the E quadrant. Security on the surface, hidden risks underneath. If you're not careful, you could wake up after 30 years of hard work and realize you've spent your entire life trading time for just enough money to survive, without ever touching true freedom.
Part 2. S. Self-employed. If the E, employee group, relies on the surface-level security a company provides, then the S, self-employed group, takes a completely different path. They want control over everything. These are the people who tell themselves, "I don't want anyone paying me a salary. I want to earn money through my own effort and skills." The self-employed can be lawyers, doctors, dentists, architects, barbers, mechanics, or even freelancers in writing, design, and online marketing. They take pride in not answering to a boss. Their income flows directly from their skills and reputation. At first glance, this sounds appealing. In America, the image of someone running their own small business, from a pizza shop in New York, to a food truck in Los Angeles, to a nail salon in Houston, has always been tied to the dream of independence. Making your own decisions, working your own way, and keeping the full reward of your labor, that's the allure of the S quadrant. But Robert Kiyosaki emphasizes that the self-employed are not as free as they appear. In fact, they're often the hardest working people of all. Because when you are self-employed, you are the business. Without you, the income disappears. Take the example of a dentist in California. He might earn several $100,000 a year, but if he gets into an accident and has to take a few months off, his cash flow nearly stops overnight. A well-known lawyer may bill hundreds of dollars an hour, but that also means as long as they must keep working to build clients, their income only exists while they do. Kiyosaki calls this the trap of the more I work, the more I have. People in the S quadrant often fall into perfectionism. They don't trust anyone to do the job as well as they can, so they try to do everything themselves. A small restaurant owner in Texas might buy the ingredients, cook in the kitchen, serve at the counter, and handle the bookkeeping. They think they're the boss, but in reality, they've become a slave to their own business. The bigger problem is that self-employed people frequently trade health and time for higher income. Many doctors in the US work 60 to 70 hours a week under immense stress. A freelance marketer in New York might out-earn an office worker, but still lives at the mercy of deadlines and demanding clients every single day. Compared to employees, the self-employed have more control but still lack true freedom. Because as long as you must personally put in the effort to generate money, you're still caught in the cycle of time equals money. Of course, the S quadrant is a step forward from E. Here, people learn responsibility, self-discipline, and independence. It can be a valuable stage for building resilience and business skills. But if you stop here, your financial foundation remains fragile, because at the core, your income still depends entirely on you. Kiyosaki stresses that the real transformation only happens when you move beyond both E and S, when your income is no longer limited by the hours you can work. And to get there, you need to step into the other side of the quadrant, B and I. Part 3. B. Business Owner. When you step into the B, Business Owner quadrant, the rules of the game change completely. If in the S quadrant you work in your business, then in the B quadrant you build a system so the business works for you. That's the key difference. You're no longer doing everything yourself. You create a machine that runs whether you're there or not. Robert Kiyosaki explains it clearly. People in the B quadrant don't personally fix patients' teeth, ring up every customer at the counter, or bill clients by the hour. Instead, they design a structure, a team, a process, and a system that allows other people to do the work while they focus on strategy and vision. Take a simple example. In America, there are two types of pizza shop owners. One is the small business owner in Brooklyn, kneading dough by hand, working the oven every night, serving customers, and balancing the books. That's the S quadrant. If he takes a week off, the shop might have to shut down. The other type is the founder of Domino's or Papa John's. They don't make every pizza themselves. Instead, they build a brand, create standardized recipes, launch a franchise model, and let tens of thousands of managers and employees run the operations. That's the B quadrant. The system works independently, and even if the owner takes a month-long vacation in Hawaii, the cash keeps flowing in. You can see the same contrast in healthcare. A skilled doctor running a small private clinic remains in the S quadrant. But if that same doctor creates a chain of clinics, hires other physicians, builds a brand, and sets up systems that run without him, he has stepped into the B quadrant. Americans often admire tech entrepreneurs like Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk. Bezos doesn't pack every Amazon box. Musk doesn't personally solder chips into Tesla cars. They act as system builders, architects of massive operations, while tens of thousands of engineers and workers keep things moving. That's the B mindset. Build for scale. The crucial point is this: business owners escape the time trap. Their income is no longer tied to how many hours they personally work. Instead, they can focus on improving systems, expanding reach, and creating value for millions of people. That's why income in the B quadrant has virtually no ceiling, because systems can scale infinitely. Of course, moving into the B quadrant isn't easy. It requires trust, delegation, and leadership. Many self-employed people fail to transition because they can't let go of the belief, no one can do it as well as I can. I need to control everything. But the truth is, if you want to step away from working in the business and actually build one, you must let others take over and accept that the system, not you, is the center. Kiyosaki emphasizes this point. The B quadrant is where people finally get close to true financial freedom, because when you own a profitable system that doesn't rely on your direct labor, you've stepped through the doorway that employees and self-employed individuals can never reach.
Part 4. I, Investor. If the B, Business Owner quadrant, is about building systems that generate income while you sleep, then the I, Investor quadrant is the highest level, where money multiplies by itself. This is where your assets don't just sit idle. They become invisible employees, working 24/7, never complaining, never asking for vacation, and never getting tired. Robert Kiyosaki calls the I quadrant the land of true freedom. Once your investments are large enough, you don't need to sell your time or manage employees in systems day to day. All you need to do is make the right decisions. Your money will take care of the rest. Look around America, and you'll see the contrast. Middle-class parents who spend a lifetime working and saving from their paychecks often retire worried, asking, will we have enough to last? Meanwhile, others who learned early to put their money to work invested in stocks, bonds, rental properties, and index funds. By retirement, they live off passive income, rental checks, dividends, and investment returns. Imagine owning a 20-unit apartment building in Texas. Every month, dozens of tenants pay rent, creating a steady cash flow for you without you having to trade hours for dollars. Or think about Wall Street investors who buy shares of Apple, Microsoft, or Nvidia. They let the innovation and creativity of tens of thousands of engineers worldwide multiply the value of their wealth. But Kiyosaki also warns, the I quadrant isn't a paradise for the lazy. Wise investing requires knowledge, discipline, and emotional control. The U.S. financial markets are full of temptations, hot stocks, meme trades, and volatile crypto. True investors don't chase the crowd. They focus on value, practice patience, and play the long game. Here's a key distinction. Real investors buy control, not just products. A worker buys a single house to live in. An investor buys 10 houses to rent out. The average person might throw a few $100s into stocks for fun. A serious investor puts in millions to gain board seats and help shape the direction of an entire company. At this level, money doesn't just serve you, it creates influence. Major investors can shape industries, guide technology, and even impact the entire economy. Warren Buffett isn't just wealthy because he holds shares. Markets move simply because of what he says. The exciting part is, anyone can begin entering the I quadrant. You don't need to be a millionaire. A 401k, a Vanguard index fund, or even a single rental property, these are all first steps into the freedom zone. Kiyosaki reminds us, the real question isn't how much money you have right now. The question is whether you've chosen the path of the I quadrant. Because only here can you truly escape the cycle of work, spend, worry, and move into a new level of life, living with the freedom that money itself creates. Part 5. Conclusion and final message. We all have only 24 hours in a day. The difference isn't how hard you work, but how you use your time, build processes, and create systems or teams that can generate money even while you sleep. This is the core message Robert Kiyosaki wants to deliver. If you rely solely on your own labor, you'll always be limited. But if you learn how to make money, systems, and people work for you, financial freedom becomes only a matter of time. Warren Buffett, one of the greatest investors of all time, once said,
If you don't find a way to make money while you sleep, you will work until you die. This isn't meant to scare you, but to wake you up. Time is the fairest asset we all share, yet only those who know how to leverage it will ever achieve true freedom. So, the final lesson from Cashflow Quadrant is, take a step back and ask yourself, which quadrant are you in today? And more importantly, where do you want to be in the next 5 or 10 years? Start small. Set aside a portion of your income to invest. Learn how to manage money and build streams of passive income. Because every journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step. You don't need to become Warren Buffett. But if you know how to make money work for you, one day you'll wake up truly free. Not because you're richer than everyone else, but because you have complete control over how you choose to live. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss more content on books, finance, and personal freedom.
Have you ever wondered why you work so hard every single day, yet your savings account barely seems to grow? Meanwhile, there are people who don't stand out at all. Driving an ordinary car, living in a modest home, working a regular job, yet quietly holding millions of dollars. They don't appear on magazine covers, they don't flaunt luxury, but they are the real millionaires. The book, The Millionaire Next Door, reveals the secret. Wealth doesn't come from luck or a massive paycheck. It comes from habits, discipline, and the lifestyle choices you make every single day. This is your audiobook summary, perfect if you're striving for financial freedom, want to break free from debt, and dream of the day when your bank account is big enough to buy you peace of mind. And before we dive in, don't forget to hit like and follow this channel so you won't miss the best book summaries on personal finance, helping you shorten the path to true wealth. Part 1. The Real Picture of American Millionaires. When people think of millionaires, many Americans immediately picture luxury neighborhoods in Beverly Hills, beachfront mansions in Florida, or shiny Lamborghinis. The media paints wealth as synonymous with extravagance, but research by Thomas J. Stanley and William Danko revealed a surprising truth. Most millionaires in America don't live that way at all. Imagine this. You're living in a quiet neighborhood in Ohio or Texas. Your neighbor drives a 7-year-old Toyota Camry, still wakes up early to mow the lawn, and spends weekends shopping at Walmart with his family. On the surface, you'd never guess he has over $2 million invested and is completely financially free. But the truth is, he's the perfect example of the millionaire next door described in this book. According to the author's survey, the most common vehicles owned by American millionaires aren't Ferraris or Porsches. They're Ford F-150s, Toyota Camrys, and Honda Accords. Reliable, practical cars. Nearly 60% of millionaires live in homes they bought more than 20 years ago, with values that are modest compared to their current income. Take one example, a couple in Dallas. The husband is an electrical engineer, the wife an elementary school teacher. They never earned more than $90,000 a year combined. Yet, after 30 years of saving, investing in index funds, and avoiding a lavish lifestyle, they now have more than $1.5 million in retirement accounts. They don't look like millionaires, but they live a life many dream of. No debt, no financial pressure, and true freedom. The lesson is simple. Real wealth isn't about how you appear to society, but how much you actually own after expenses. People who spend money to prove they're rich will stay stuck in the rat race, while those who quietly build wealth move closer and closer to financial independence. Part 2. Spend less than you earn. One of the simplest yet hardest secrets that the millionaire next door lives by is this. They always spend less than they earn. It sounds obvious, something everyone nods to, but in reality, it's far from easy in America. According to data from the Federal Reserve, more than 60% of Americans don't even have $1,000 set aside for an emergency. The problem isn't that people don't earn money. It's that their spending almost always rises to match their income. This cycle is called lifestyle inflation. Every time income goes up, expenses climb right alongside it. Picture a young man in New York who just landed a $75,000 a year job. Almost immediately, he upgrades to a nicer apartment, leases a brand new BMW, and puts luxury vacations on his credit card. On social media, he looks successful, but behind the scenes, his savings are nearly zero, and every month, he's scrambling to keep up with debt. Meanwhile, a hidden millionaire living right next door chooses a very different path. They might earn $100,000 a year, but spend only $50,000, saving and investing the rest. They're not interested in showing off. They're focused on making their money work for them. Take the Johnsons in Minnesota, for example. They earn about $85,000 annually. Instead of stretching for the biggest house of banquet finance, they bought a modest home well within their means. As a result, they paid off their mortgage in just 15 years, built a strong retirement fund, and saved over $500,000 in cash reserves. From the outside, they appear to live simply, but in reality, they've bought themselves peace of mind and financial freedom. The lesson is clear. Building wealth doesn't mean you need to earn a huge salary right away. What matters most is how much of your income you keep. True wealth doesn't come from high earnings, but from the discipline of spending less and letting that difference become the foundation of long-term investments.
Part 3. Saving and investing are habits, not phases. Many people think of saving and investing as just a temporary stage in life, like a short-term project. They say, I'll save for a few years and then I'll enjoy life later. But in reality, the quiet millionaires around us see saving and investing as a lifelong way of living, a deeply ingrained habit, not a passing trend. The numbers tell the story. According to the Millionaire Next Door, over 80% of self-made millionaires in America consistently save and invest at least 15% of their income, whether they earn $50,000 or $200,000 a year. The common thread is discipline and consistency. Take Ronald Reed, for example. He worked as a gas station attendant in Vermont, later as a janitor and security guard. He lived so modestly that most people assumed he had nothing. But when he passed away in 2014, Ronald left behind a fortune of more than $8 million. His secret wasn't winning the lottery or chasing risky investments. It was simply living frugally and steadily putting money into stocks and bonds for over 60 years. Contrast that with the millions of Americans earning six-figure salaries, yet with little or no savings, because they live by the motto, spend today, worry tomorrow. They wait for a big break instead of trusting in steady, small steps over time. Real millionaires think differently. They see every dollar saved as a soldier sent out to work and bring back more money. Over the years, those soldiers multiply, forming a powerful financial army, all while their owners maintain simple, modest lifestyles. The key lesson here is this: small, repeated habits are what create lasting wealth. True financial success doesn't come from one big decision. It comes from hundreds, even thousands of smart choices made consistently over many years. Part 4. Self-reliance, not dependence. One of the clearest traits of the Millionaire Next Door is that they don't depend on family, friends, or handouts. They build their own path instead of waiting for an inheritance or a lucky break. In fact, according to the Millionaire Next Door, more than 80% of millionaires in America are self-made, meaning they didn't inherit significant wealth. Many of them started from working-class backgrounds or even from poverty. But instead of complaining, they ask themselves, what can I do with what I have right now? Take, for example, a couple in Texas highlighted in the research. The husband began his career as an electrician, while his wife worked as a bookkeeper for a small company. With no one to lean on, they chose to live frugally, save consistently, and invest for the long term. After more than 30 years, by the time they retired, they had built a fortune of over $4 million. Their neighbors never suspected it, because outwardly they still drove an old pickup truck and lived in a modest home. Meanwhile, many other Americans rely on support, whether it's parental assistance, borrowing money to maintain a lifestyle beyond their means, or banking on a future inheritance. The sad truth is that this dependence often prevents them from ever being truly free, because they're always relying on someone else's resources. Real millionaires understand that wealth is more than just a number in a bank account. It's the confidence that you can stand on your own 2 feet. That independence is the foundation on which lasting wealth is built. Part 5. Avoiding the consumption trap and social pressure. In America, there's a common paradox. Many people look rich but are actually drowning in debt, while real millionaires often look completely ordinary. This is the power and the danger of social pressure. Think about it. How many times have you seen friends post pictures of luxury vacations in Hawaii or show off their brand new SUV on social media, and suddenly you feel like you need to upgrade just to keep up? In the US, there's even a phrase for this: keeping up with the Joneses, the constant urge to match neighbors and friends with expensive purchases. But this habit has pushed millions of American families deep into credit card debt. According to Federal Reserve data from 2023, U.S. credit card debt surpassed $1 trillion for the first time in history, a record-breaking number that shows just how many people are overspending simply to maintain a flashy image. Meanwhile, the millionaires next door see things differently. They don't buy luxury cars just to impress. Instead, they drive reliable vehicles like Toyota Camrys or Ford F-150s. They don't flaunt designer brands, they choose comfort and practicality. More importantly, they understand that real wealth is measured not by what you buy, but how much you keep. Take Warren Buffett, for example, one of the richest men in the world. He still lives in the same house he purchased in Omaha, Nebraska back in 1958, and he drives regular cars. If even the wealthiest avoid consumer traps, why do so many Americans chain themselves to debt just to look rich? The lesson here is crystal clear. Escape the consumption trap and don't let social pressure control your wallet. True wealth isn't about looking rich. It's about having the freedom to choose without being ruled by money.
Part 6. Financial education for the next generation. One of the greatest secrets of America's quiet millionaires isn't just in how much money they earn, it's in how they pass on financial wisdom to their children. You can clearly see the difference between 2 types of families. On one side, parents are willing to go into debt to buy their kids the newest iPhone or even pay for college tuition with credit cards. Without realizing it, they teach their children that spending now and worrying later is normal. On the other side, the quiet millionaire families teach their kids the value of work and saving from an early age. Instead of handing out allowance with no conditions, they encourage their kids to earn money through small jobs, mowing a neighbor's lawn, running a lemonade stand, or taking on part-time work once they're old enough. These small tasks don't just bring in pocket money. They instill the understanding that money has value when it's earned through effort and discipline. Research from the Institute for Social Research at the University of Michigan shows that children who learn financial habits from their parents are twice as likely to save and invest compared to those who don't. In other words, when parents lead by example and teach their kids about money, they create a cycle of wealth that can last for generations. If you want a clear example, look at the Rothschild family, one of the wealthiest and most influential dynasties in history. Their wealth wasn't built solely through smart investments in the 18th century. It endured because they passed down financial knowledge, discipline, and asset management skills through each generation. For over 200 years, their fortune hasn't just survived, it has grown, thanks to a family culture that valued saving, investing, and unity. This proves one simple truth: wealth can disappear in a single generation if it isn't paired with knowledge and discipline. But when parents instill the right mindset, wealth can last for centuries. In America, where college tuition, credit card debt, and high living costs are constant threats, teaching children how to manage money has never been more important. The millionaires next door know that their greatest asset isn't the big house or the large investment account. It's leaving behind a mindset. Live below your means, save consistently, and understand that freedom comes from discipline, not consumption. The lesson here is powerful. True wealth is an intellectual legacy, not just a number in the bank. Part 7. Wealth is the result of habits, not luck. As we reach the end of The Millionaire Next Door, one simple truth becomes clear, yet it's the truth most people overlook. Wealth doesn't come from lottery wins or massive inheritances. It comes from the habits you repeat every single day. The quiet millionaires studied by the authors all share the same patterns. They live modestly, spend less than they earn, invest consistently, and have the patience to let money grow over time. There's no magic formula, only discipline and consistency. The powerful thing is, anyone can build these habits no matter where you are on your financial journey. It's the small choices you make every day that choose to save instead of spend, to invest instead of hoard, that determine whether you'll become the next millionaire next door. In the end, wealth is not a destination. It's a reward, a natural outcome of a disciplined, humble, and forward-looking way of life. So we've come to the end of The Millionaire Next Door. You may not be a millionaire today, but you can start living like one right now. Simple, smart, and focused on the future. Because in the end, wealth is not about luck. It's about the choices you make, repeated day after day. If you found this audiobook summary helpful, don't forget to like and follow the channel. Stay with us for more life-changing books on personal finance, guides that will help you build freedom, prosperity, and a truly wealthy life.
Have you ever wondered why you work so hard, day after day, month after month, yet still end up with nothing to show for it? Your paycheck disappears as soon as it arrives. Debts keep piling up, and the dream of financial freedom feels like it's always just out of reach. You see others building wealth, investing, buying homes, and living comfortably, while you're stuck in the endless cycle of earn and spend. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. Thousands of years ago, in ancient Babylon, people faced the very same question: how can I escape poverty and build lasting wealth? And in what was once the richest city in history, they discovered timeless financial principles, simple yet powerful rules that transformed an entire nation from struggle to prosperity. Today, I want to share those secrets with you through the classic book, The Richest Man in Babylon. If you're determined to break free from financial struggles, this may be the key to opening a brand new chapter in your life. And if you're serious about taking control of your money and creating a life of freedom, don't forget to hit like and follow this channel so you won't miss our audiobook summaries of life-changing books that can transform the way you think about money and your future. Principle 1. Make your purse fat. In The Richest Man in Babylon, there's a powerful scene. A young man approaches Arkat, the richest man in Babylon, and laments, "Master, I work from sunrise to sunset, yet by the end of the month my purse is empty. I can never seem to save. How can I ever become wealthy?" Arkat smiles and replies, "From now on, do this. For every 10 coins you earn, keep at least 1 for yourself. Do not spend at all. Let your purse grow fat." The young man is astonished. "Just 1 coin? What good is that?" With calm patience, Arkat answers, "If you cannot keep 1 coin today, you will not be able to keep 100 tomorrow. Wealth does not begin with great sums, it begins with small acts of discipline." Now, let's reflect on that wisdom in our modern world. Today, the average American earns about $4,600 per month after taxes, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. Yet, according to a Bankrate survey, nearly 57% of Americans don't even have $1,000 saved for an emergency. That means one car repair, one medical bill, or just a few weeks without a paycheck can push millions into financial crisis. The problem isn't that people don't earn enough. In fact, Americans enjoy some of the highest incomes in the world. The real issue is that most people spend everything they earn, and often more, thanks to credit cards. We live in a culture where advertising constantly pressures us. Buy the new car, the latest phone, the luxury vacation. And by the end of the month, the account is empty again. It's the same cycle that young man in Babylon complained about thousands of years ago, and millions of Americans still face today. So what's the secret? It's Arkad's principle. Pay yourself first. Let's do the math. Suppose you earn $4,600 a month. If you set aside just 10%, that's $460 for saving or investing. In 1 year, you'll have over $5,500. In 10 years, without even counting interest, that's $55,000. And if you invested with an average return of 7%, the long-term historical return of the US stock market, after 20 years, you could have more than $240,000. It all begins with one simple habit: keeping 10% of what you earn. What's fascinating is that Arkad shared this wisdom over 4,000 years ago in Babylon. And today, modern financial experts, from Dave Ramsey to Sethi, teach the exact same principle. Times change, tools change, but the laws of money do not. The first lesson of wealth is not to earn more, but to learn how to keep some of what you already earn. Because if you can't manage $1,000, you won't manage $10,000 either. Wealth starts with habits, not numbers.
Principle 2. Control your expenses. After hearing Arkad explain that he must keep at least 1/10 of his income, the young Babylonian grew worried. "But master, my income is already barely enough to cover my living costs. If I set aside part of it, how will I survive?" Arkad smiled and replied, "That is the very illusion most people fall into. They believe they need more in order to live. But in truth, it is desire, not necessity, that keeps them poor. You must learn to distinguish between real needs and passing wants. If you cannot control your expenses, then even with double your income, you will still end up with nothing." Fast forward to modern society, and this wisdom rings even truer. According to a 2023 Lending Club report, nearly 61% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, meaning that after covering their bills, they have little or nothing left over. What's even more striking is that this isn't just a problem for low-income earners. Nearly 40% of households making over $100,000 a year are still living paycheck to paycheck. This shows that the problem isn't about how much you make, it's about how you manage what you spend. Take a simple example. The average American spends about $1,000 a month on food, including dining out. By cutting that by just 20%, say by cooking at home more often, you could save almost $2,400 a year. Or consider debt. According to Experian, the average American carries about $6,500 in credit card debt. With average interest rates over 20%, many people are paying thousands of dollars just to feed the debt, rather than funding their dream of financial freedom. In Babylon, people clearly separated necessities, food, clothing, shelter, from luxuries that merely satisfied desire. In today's America, the trap is something called lifestyle inflation. As income rises, expenses rise too. A bigger apartment, a newer car, fancier vacations. And so, the purse never grows fat. So what's the solution? Arkad put it simply. To have surplus, you need not deny yourself all pleasures. You need only set limits. Let your desires not exceed 9/10 of your income. In modern language, this is called budgeting. One practical method Americans can use is the 50-30-20 rule.
50% of income for essentials, 30% for wants and lifestyle, 20% for savings and investing. When you control your spending, money no longer feels like it disappears the moment it arrives. Instead, you begin to experience the difference between mastering your money and letting money master you. And that is Babylon's second lesson. You will never grow wealthy by spending all you earn. Wealth only comes when you learn to control your desires and give priority to the future over the present. Principle 3. Make your money work for you. In another lesson, Arcad shared a teaching he once received from his own mentor. A purse grows not only when it holds gold, but when it holds the children of gold, profits that money itself produces. And when those children go on to have their own children, wealth multiplies beyond measure. He explained that if you simply hoard money, you'll always worry because it doesn't grow. But if you invest wisely, your money will work for you, even while you sleep. Yet in modern America, this lesson is often ignored. According to a 2023 Gallup survey, only about 61% of Americans invest in the stock market. That means nearly 4 in 10 people are leaving their money sitting in traditional bank accounts, where interest rates are mere 0.01% to 0.5%, barely anything at all. Contrast that with this. If someone invested just $10 a day in the S&P 500, the index tracking 500 of America's largest companies, over 30 years, with the stock market's historical average return of around 10% per year, they could end up with more than $660,000. A small daily habit, yet it creates an entirely different future. This is what Arcad meant by the children of gold, letting money earn profits and letting those profits compound into even greater wealth. But there is a trap, one that people in both ancient Babylon and modern America fall into: blind investing. Arcad told the story of a friend who entrusted his money to a merchant, hoping to profit from rare jewels brought from distant lands. But the jewels turned out to be worthless fakes, and his friend lost everything. From then on, Arcad warned, money grows only when placed in safe investments under the care of those skilled in its management. The same danger exists today. Millions of Americans lose money chasing get-rich-quick schemes, whether it's meme stocks, risky cryptocurrencies, or Ponzi scams. We'll explore this in more depth in Principle 4. So, the principle remains timeless. Invest early and consistently, even small amounts. Place your money in safe, proven vehicles with long-term track records, like index funds or stable real estate. Reinvest your profits, letting compound interest build unstoppable momentum. In Babylon, Arcad called this making gold work for you. In today's America, financial experts call it compound interest. And as Einstein famously said, compound interest is the 8th wonder of the world. The bottom line? Money that sits idle slowly dies. But money that is wisely invested becomes an army, working tirelessly, day and night, to build your wealth. True prosperity begins when you learn how to let money create more money.
Principle 4. Protect your wealth from loss. One day, a young man came to Arcad, looking discouraged. "Master, I followed your teaching. I saved part of my income and invested it, but now it's all gone. I gave my money to a merchant who promised great profits from a sea voyage, but the ship never returned." Arcad looked at him patiently and replied, "Not every investment is wise. If you entrust your gold to someone with no knowledge, it is as if you cast it into the abyss. Lasting wealth
does not come from luck, but from caution. Remember this: before seeking profits, you must first learn to protect your capital. This wisdom could not be more relevant today. According to a 2022 report from the FTC, Americans lost over $8.8 billion to financial scams, a 30% increase from the year before. Get-rich-quick traps like worthless crypto coins, Ponzi schemes, and even fake real estate deals have wiped out the life savings of millions. But scams aren't the only danger. Debt and lack of protection are equally destructive. Emergency funds. A survey from Bankrate shows that 56% of Americans don't have $1,000 set aside for emergencies. When unexpected setbacks strike, job loss, illness, or accidents, many are forced to rely on credit cards with average interest rates above 20%. Medical costs. Research from the American Journal of Public Health found that 66.5% of personal bankruptcies in the U.S. are tied to medical debt. In Babylon, Arkad taught, "The cautious man does not let his wealth fall into the hands of those who misuse it." In today's America, that means, don't invest in things you don't understand. Always carry health insurance and property insurance to guard against risk. Keep an emergency fund of at least 3 to 6 months' living expenses. Imagine this: if you had $10,000 and put it into a sure-win scheme promising 30% a month, one mistake could wipe it all out. But if you instead invested that same $10,000 in an ETF tracking the S&P 500, which has delivered nearly 12% annually on average over the past decade, you would both protect your capital and build sustainable gains. The lesson the Babylonians taught thousands of years ago still stands firm today. Wealth only endures when you protect it against loss. Let wisdom guide your choices, not blind greed.
Principle 5. Own your own home. In ancient Babylon, a brickmaker once came to Arkad and complained, "Master, I work hard every single day, yet the gold I earn barely covers rent, food, and caring for my family. All my life I've rented, and my purse has never felt lighter." Arkad smiled and replied, "A renter will forever grow the wealth of his landlord, but when a man owns his own home, every coin he spends becomes a foundation for his future prosperity." He explained that a home is more than just shelter. It is also a store of wealth. Rent payments vanish into nothing, but mortgage payments build equity, creating lasting value. In modern America, this truth still holds true. According to the U.S. Census Bureau 2023, about 66% of Americans own their homes, while the remaining 34% continue to rent. The difference is staggering. Housing is the single greatest source of wealth for the American middle class. A 2022 Federal Reserve report showed that the median net worth of U.S. homeowners is $396,200, compared to just $10,400 for renters, a gap of nearly 38 times. And the cost of renting is only climbing. Data from Zillow shows that average rents in the U.S. rose more than 25% between 2020 and 2023. That means renters are watching their living costs inflate year after year, yet they own nothing after decades of payments. But just as in Babylon, owning a home requires wisdom. Arkad once warned, "Do not build a house so large that it swallows your income. Choose a home within your means so your purse is never empty." In today's America, this lesson is more relevant than ever. Many people fall into the trap of being house poor, owning a home but being crushed by a massive mortgage that eats up 40 to 50% of their income. Instead of freedom, the home becomes a burden. Modern financial experts suggest a smarter path. Buy a home priced no more than 2.5 to 3 times your annual income. Keep your monthly mortgage payment below 28% of your income. Choose a long-term fixed-rate mortgage to shield yourself from interest rate swings. The timeless lesson from Babylon to America today is that a home is the cornerstone of wealth. When you rent, you pay for someone else's dream. When you own, you pay for your own future.
Principle 6. Secure your future income. In one conversation, Arcad spoke to the eager young men just starting their lives. Gold may fill your purse today, but when old age comes and your strength fades, who will provide for your children? A wise man does not think only of the present. He prepares for the day when his hands can no longer labor. In Babylon, he advised people to set aside part of their earnings for old age and to invest in steady ventures that could provide long-term income. True wealth, he said, is not just being comfortable today, but being safe tomorrow. This wisdom is critical in modern America. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, 2022, life expectancy in the U.S. is nearly 77 years. That means if you retire at 65, you may need to live more than a decade without work income. Yet, the reality is sobering. The National Council on Aging, NCOA, reports that only 1 in 4 Americans over 65 are financially prepared for a comfortable retirement. Social Security, which supports over 67 million Americans, pays an average of just $1,900 per month, SSA 2023. In many states, where the cost of living for a single person is $2,500 to $3,000 per month, this is far from enough. The average American 401k balance, according to a 2022 Vanguard report, is only $141,544. With the common 4% withdrawal rate, that provides just $472 a month, barely enough to survive. So what is the Babylonian way for Americans today to secure their future? Mandatory retirement savings. Just as Arcad taught, set aside part of your income. In America, you can use retirement accounts like a 401k or IRA. If you consistently invest $500 a month into the S&P 500 with its historical average return of 10%, after 30 years, you could have more than $1 million. Income-producing investments. Arcad spoke of gold that breeds. Today, that can mean rental properties, dividend-paying stocks, or government bonds. These create passive income streams for when you're no longer working. Life and health insurance. In Babylon, men worried about protecting their families after they were gone. Today, insurance is the safety net that ensures your spouse and children are secure even if misfortune strikes. The timeless lesson, carried over 4,000 years. True wealth is not what you have today. It is the security you preserve for tomorrow. Let your money continue working for you, even after you've stopped working yourself. Principle 7. Grow your earning ability. In one of his teachings, Arcad told his students, "A man with gold but no skills is like one who carries water in a bag. It will leak away and vanish. But a man with skills, even if his purse is empty, can fill it again with his hands and his mind." In Babylon, a man's craft was the measure of his value. A skilled brickmaker earned more than an average one, and a wise merchant thrived where others failed. Arcad emphasized, the most reliable source of wealth is not the gold you possess, but the ability to earn more. This truth is just as relevant in modern America. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, BLS 2023, the median salary in the U.S. is $54,132 per year. But skill makes all the difference. A software developer earns an average of $109,202 per year. A restaurant server earns just $29,120 per year. Same 24 hours a day, but vastly different incomes, 3 to 4 times apart because of skills. Education also matters. A 2022 study by Georgetown University found that Americans with a bachelor's degree earn 84% more on average than those with only a high school diploma. And it's not just degrees, it's new skills. According to LinkedIn, 2023, Americans who upgraded their digital or AI skills within the past year saw income increases of 20 to 30% compared to those who stood still. This is the Babylonian way in today's world. Invest in learning. Just as Arcad urged his students to learn from those who are wiser, today, books, online courses, and mentors are tools to increase your value. Build advanced skills. In the digital age, technology, AI, data, software, and finance, investing, management are the brick-making trades of our time. Adopt lifelong learning. Economies shift, jobs disappear, but those who keep learning will always find new ways to earn. The final lesson from Babylon: gold can be lost, but the ability to earn it is never lost. True wealth is not only keeping money, it is continually developing the power to create more. We've just walked through 7 timeless principles that have lasted more than 4,000 years since the days of ancient Babylon. Whether in Babylon thousands of years ago or in America today, these truths point to the same reality. Wealth doesn't come from luck. It comes from discipline, vision, and the willingness to keep learning. Now, imagine yourself 10 years from today. You'll look back at this very moment in one of 2 ways: with regret, because you let life slip by, living paycheck to paycheck with nothing set aside for the future, or with pride, because you planted the seeds of Babylon today, and they have grown into a thriving financial garden full of fruit. That difference won't be about luck. It will come down to the small decision you make right now. If you're truly serious about building financial freedom, don't just stop at listening to a summary. Start applying it today. Build your first savings fund. Cut back on one unnecessary expense. Learn a new skill. And most importantly, keep following this channel for more classic lessons on money and investing. If you found this video helpful, hit like, leave a comment with the most valuable lesson you've taken away, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. Remember, financial freedom isn't a dream. It's the result of disciplined actions you begin today.
Imagine yourself sitting in an office, staring out the window. Out there is the blue sky, the life you've always dreamed of. But instead of living it, you're selling away every hour, every day of your life in exchange for a paycheck, only to spend it on things that never bring lasting happiness. And the toughest question the book, Your Money or Your Life, asks is this: do you choose money or do you choose life? This isn't just an audiobook summary. It's a wake-up call. It challenges you to reflect: are you working for money or for the life you truly want? If you've ever sighed at a bill or wondered if you're wasting your youth just chasing a paycheck, then this video is for you. Let's dive into the life-changing lessons on money and mindset from this book. And before we begin, don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you won't miss more books that help you break free from the money trap and reclaim your true freedom. Part 1. Waking up to your relationship with money. Have you ever stopped and asked yourself, what is my true relationship with money? Most of us only think of money as a tool, to pay bills, to shop, to have fun. But the truth is, money is tied to every single moment of your life. It represents the time you've lived, the energy you've spent, and even the freedom you've traded away. Authors Vicki and Joe Dominguez posed a question that startled millions of Americans. Are you working to live or just living to work? When you do the math, the average American spends over 90,000 hours of their lifetime just working. That's more than 10 years of life, not to love, not to explore the world, but to sit in front of a computer, attend endless meetings, and chase deadlines. And when the paycheck finally hits your account, most of it is spent unconsciously. Buying a new car to match your status, upgrading your phone every year because everyone else has one, or going out to fancy dinners just to escape work stress.
But what if you stopped, woke up, and asked yourself, is this purchase really worth trading away dozens of hours of my life? When you look at money this way, everything changes. That's why the author suggests you start by tracking every dollar of your income and expenses, and not just the amount, convert it into hours of your life. For example, you buy a $500 bag. Based on your salary, that could equal 40 hours of work. That's an entire week of your life. When you see it in terms of life hours, every spending decision becomes clearer, and you start to know what truly matters. Interestingly, many people who try this exercise realize they don't actually want more money. They want more freedom. They crave less pressure, less stress. And to achieve that, you don't necessarily need to earn more. You need to understand how money flows in and out of your life. In the end, money is neither the enemy nor the savior. It's a mirror reflecting how you live and what you truly value. And once you wake up, you see that happiness isn't about how much money you have, it's about how you use money to serve what really matters in your life. Part 2. Tracking your money, the truth revealed. Have you ever asked yourself, where does all my money go so fast? The average American earns around $60,000 a year, yet surveys show nearly 64% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck, meaning as soon as the money comes in, it's already gone. This reveals a hard truth. Most of us don't actually know where our money is going. Vicki and Joe Dominguez call this step the financial mirror. If part 1 was about waking up to your relationship with money, then part 2 is about shining a light on reality, tracking every dollar in and out. It sounds simple, but most people avoid it because writing it down makes everything uncomfortably clear. How much of your monthly income is being drained by unconscious habits, like Starbucks every morning, Netflix, or those late-night online shopping sprees? How much is going toward things that don't bring lasting happiness, just temporary relief? Take the example of a woman named Sarah, shared in the book. She earned about $70,000 a year, but always complained she could never save. When she finally tracked every expense for 3 months, she discovered she was spending nearly $12,000 a year on eating out and food delivery. That's the cost of an entire trip across Europe, or a full year of retirement contributions. She had always thought it was just a little here and there, but in reality, her money was being drained by small, repeated choices. This is the truth-revealing moment the book wants you to face. When you track every dollar, your financial picture becomes as clear as a map. And that map shows an important truth. You're not broke because you don't make enough. You're broke because you don't know where your money is going. Once you see the whole picture, you gain the power to change. Just like when a doctor gives you lab results, seeing your cholesterol or blood sugar levels is what finally convinces you to adjust your lifestyle. With money, your spending numbers are the test results that wake you up. Remember, tracking your money isn't about feeling guilty for spending. It's about taking back control. Because only when you know exactly where your money is flowing can you direct it to where you truly want it to go. Freedom, security, and lasting happiness.
Part 3. Evaluating the true value of your spending. In the last step, you saw clearly where your money was going, but the next step is even more important, asking about the real value behind every expense. There's a saying in America, you vote with your dollars. Every dollar you spend is like casting a ballot, showing what you support and what you value. But think about it. If every day you're voting for fast food or for late-night impulse shopping sprees, is that really a reflection of the life you want? In Your Money or Your Life, Vicki introduces a radical perspective. Every time you spend money, you're not just spending dollars, you're spending pieces of your life energy. Here's a simple example. If you earn $25 an hour after taxes and you buy a $100 shirt, that shirt actually costs you 4 hours of your life. Add in the stress of work, the commute, the energy you burn, and suddenly it might represent half a day of your living time. The question then becomes, is half a day of your life really worth a shirt you might wear a few times and then forget in your closet? It sounds harsh, but this shift in perspective has transformed the way thousands of Americans spend. A 2023 Bankrate study found that nearly 57% of Americans couldn't cover a $1,000 emergency expense. The problem isn't always low income. It's that many people have never asked themselves, does this purchase bring me lasting happiness? The book tells the story of a couple in New York. They earned good money, but were always broke. When they applied this method, they realized nearly 40% of their monthly spending went to maintaining a lifestyle society expected of them. Trendy clothes, fancy dinners, endless parties. But when they compared the cost in life hours against the actual happiness they got, most of it wasn't worth it. So they simplified their lifestyle, and within just a few years, they had saved enough to retire early. The lesson is clear. Every purchase is a trade-off with your life energy. Once you start seeing money through this lens, you'll naturally spend less on meaningless things and invest more in what truly matters: your health, your experiences, and your freedom. Part 4. Spending less, living better. When most people hear the phrase cutting expenses, they immediately think of sacrifice, living miserably, giving up joy, or even punishing themselves. But your money or your life offers a different perspective. Spending less isn't about cutting out happiness, it's about clearing away the excess so you can make room for what truly matters. Think back, the last time you bought something expensive, how long did that happiness last? A day? A week? Then the excitement faded and you started craving the next thing. That's the consumer trap millions of Americans are stuck in. Psychology research confirms this. Once your basic needs are met, more spending doesn't necessarily mean more happiness. According to a 2021 Gallup report, the income level where Americans feel generally satisfied with life averages around $75,000 a year. Beyond that, happiness levels barely increase, while stress and pressure often climb higher. The book shares the story of a man in Los Angeles who spent nearly 70% of his income on a luxury apartment and an expensive car. But after years of chasing that lifestyle, he realized he wasn't any happier. Eventually, he sold it all, downsized to a modest home, simplified his life, and to his surprise, he felt richer than ever. Not richer in money, but in time, peace of mind, and freedom. Smart spending cuts don't make you poorer, they actually make you wealthier in ways that matter most. They allow you to invest more in experiences and relationships, things proven to bring lasting happiness. Instead of upgrading to the latest iPhone every year, you could use that money to take your family on a trip or enroll in a class you've always wanted. These experiences enrich your soul and leave memories far more lasting than any gadget ever could. The key message is simple: spend less, live more. When you learn to separate needs from wants, you'll discover that simplicity doesn't just save money, it gives you a lighter, less stressful, and truly more meaningful life.
Part 5. Financial freedom, more than just having money. When people hear the phrase financial freedom, many imagine having millions in the bank or being able to buy anything without worry. But your money or your life offers a very different definition. Financial freedom isn't about how much money you have. It's about how much control you have over your life. Picture this. Every morning, instead of rushing off to the office, you get to decide how you'll spend your day. Do you want to work 4 hours or devote the whole day to your family? The choice is yours. That's the true meaning of financial freedom. One of the book's core ideas is that money is not a measure, it's a tool to buy back your own time. Every dollar you earn represents life energy exchanged, hours worked, effort given, stress endured. Once you understand this, you start to ask, How can I use this money to gain more free time instead of chaining myself deeper into the cycle of earning, spending, and debt? In the US, surveys show that nearly 78% of workers live paycheck to paycheck. For them, money is simply a way to cover expenses, not a path to freedom. On the other hand, people who reach financial independence, often with very average incomes, achieve it by adjusting their lifestyle, saving diligently, and investing wisely. They treat every dollar as a chance to buy a little more real freedom. For example, the book shares the story of a family in Seattle. Instead of buying the big house and new cars like their peers, they chose a modest home, drove older vehicles, and saved 50% of their income. After just over a decade, they had enough investments to retire in their 40s. They now spend their time traveling across the US with their children. For them, freedom wasn't about mansions or luxury cars, it was about living life on their own terms. The message is clear. Financial freedom isn't about being rich, it's about being free. It's the ability to say no to the things you don't want, and yes to the life you truly desire. Part 6. Money as a tool for a meaningful life. Looking back, you'll notice that the entire message of Your Money or Your Life revolves around one simple truth. Money is not the goal, it's a tool. And its real value lies in how you use it to create a more meaningful life. In America, people often say, money can't buy happiness. That's partly true. Once you have enough for food, shelter, and security, extra income doesn't make you much happier. Princeton studies show that around $75,000 a year is the satisfaction threshold for basic well-being. Beyond that point, joy doesn't really increase unless you use money in ways that add meaning. So what does it mean to live meaningfully with money? It's not about buying the newest car or the biggest house. It's about using money to buy more time for yourself and your family. Create memorable experiences instead of just collecting things. Invest in learning, health, and relationships. Contribute to your community and leave a positive mark on the world. For example, many Americans who choose early retirement don't do it just to relax and consume. They do it to chase dreams they once set aside. Painting, writing, volunteering, or opening a small cafe where people can connect. For them, money is simply the key that unlocks a life worth living. The final message is this: don't let money become your master. Make it your most loyal servant. Let every dollar you earn serve something that makes your life deeper, richer, and more meaningful. You see, money is just a tool. When you learn to master it, you don't just buy freedom, you buy a meaningful life. Instead of letting money control you, let it serve the values you truly cherish. If you found these lessons helpful and want to keep exploring more powerful ideas from great books, don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel, because sometimes just one small idea can completely change the way you see money and the way you live your life.
Have you ever checked your bank account right after payday and thought, where did all my money go? You work hard, 40 hours a week, but one unexpected medical bill or a $1,000 car repair, and suddenly all your plans fall apart. Even worse, you've been told the solution is to cut out Starbucks or stop eating out. But deep down, it still feels like you're running on a hamster wheel, exhausted but not getting anywhere. The book I Will Teach You to Be Rich by Ramit Sethi doesn't teach you to live miserably or count every penny. Instead, it shows you how to build a smart money system where your money works for you automatically, so you can enjoy life today while still building a wealthy future. If you want to break free from living paycheck to paycheck and finally take control of your financial life, make sure to watch this video until the end. And don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you won't miss out on more powerful money tips. Part 1. Rethinking Wealth. In I Will Teach You to Be Rich, Ramit Sethi begins with a truth many Americans can relate to. We often have a stressful relationship with money. Some people feel their heart race when they check their bank account, feel guilty every time they swipe their card, or simply avoid thinking about personal finance altogether. Ramit argues that wealth isn't just about how much money you have in your account, it's about being able to live the life you truly want. If you define wealth only as having $1 million or owning a big house, you'll always feel like it's never enough. But if you define it as not worrying about money and having the freedom to spend on the things you genuinely love, then you can start living a rich life today. One of Ramit's standout ideas is to stop obsessing over the tiny details and instead focus on what he calls the big wins. You've probably heard the advice: skip your daily Starbucks to save a few hundred or maybe a few $1,000s a year. But Ramit points out that cutting coffee won't change your life. On the other hand, if you automatically invest just $500 a month into a 401k or Roth IRA, in 30 years, you could have nearly $500,000. Or if you pick up the phone and negotiate your credit card interest rate down a few points, you could save thousands in interest every year. And even when buying a car, choosing a 2 to 3 year old used car instead of the latest model can instantly save you tens of thousands of dollars. This is the core of Ramit's message. Wealth doesn't come from pinching pennies, but from building a smart system that allows you to spend freely on what you love while cutting costs on what doesn't matter. As he puts it in plain terms, buy as many lattes as you want as long as you're also automatically investing in your future. That's the first step to transforming your mindset about money, from one of scarcity to one of conscious freedom. Part 2. The automatic money system. Ramit Sethi says most of us don't fail at money because we lack knowledge, we fail because we lack a system. Think about going to the gym. If you wake up every day and ask yourself, should I work out today? Chances are you'll skip it. But if you've already booked sessions with a trainer and paid in advance, you're almost guaranteed to show up. Money works the same way. Success isn't about sheer discipline. It's about creating an automatic system that manages your money for you even while you're asleep. Ramit's approach is simple and practical. Imagine it's the first of the month and your paycheck comes in. Instantly, your system distributes that money automatically. Part goes into your 401k or Roth IRA for retirement, part into an emergency savings account, part toward credit card or loan payments, and the rest flows into your daily spending account. It all happens behind the scenes. You don't have to remember or make a decision each time. By the end of the month, you can spend freely from your checking account without guilt because your saving and investing are already taken care of. The reason so many Americans feel stressed about money is because they're constantly forced to choose. How much should I save? Should I invest? Can I afford this? But once you have an automatic system, those choices are made for you ahead of time. That's why people who adopt Ramit's method often feel like a huge weight has been lifted off their shoulders. They don't sweat the small spending decisions anymore because they know they're on track long-term. Take retirement contributions, for example. If you rely on manually transferring money into your 401k every month, it's easy to miss a month or two when life gets busy, and that lost time could cost you thousands in compound growth. But if you set it up to pull straight from your paycheck, you never even see the money. And that invisibility is powerful. You can enjoy spending the rest guilt-free, knowing your wealth is quietly growing in the background. In simple terms, an automatic money system turns complex financial decisions into unconscious habits. It's like your money is working a full-time job for you while you get to live your life.
Part 3. Smart long-term investing. Ramit Sethi emphasizes that investing isn't gambling, and it's not a race to pick the next hot stock you see on CNBC. Smart investing, he says, is about choosing the long-term, simple, and consistent path. Instead of spending hours researching the market or stressing over every price swing, all you really need to do is stick to a handful of proven principles. And the most important one Ramit repeats again and again is time in the market matters more than timing the market. He points out that most professional investment funds, with teams of analysts and huge resources, still fail to beat the S&P 500 over the long run.
That means instead of trying to outsmart the market, everyday investors should follow a simple strategy. Put money into low-cost index funds and benefit from the growth of the entire economy. That's why Ramit recommends most people choose something like the Vanguard Total Stock Market Index Fund or an S&P 500 Index Fund, because they're low-cost, diversified, and have delivered steady returns for decades. Here's an example. If you invested just $500 a month into the S&P 500 starting at age 25 and kept going until 65, you could end up with over $1 million thanks to the power of compound interest. Meanwhile, while many Americans waste hours obsessing over short-term trades and panicking during downturns, those who stick with this simple long-term approach quietly win. The reality is, countless Americans get caught up in the temptations of day trading or financial fads like GameStop or crypto hype. They chase the thrill when the market goes up and feel the pain when it crashes. Ramit calls this the casino mindset. You might win big once, but eventually you lose. On the other hand, those who patiently invest in index funds, reinvest dividends, and ignore short-term noise are the ones who cross the finish line with lasting wealth. Put simply, Ramit's idea of smart investing isn't about striking gold. It's about planting seeds and letting time grow them. Your financial future doesn't depend on predicting the market. It depends on whether you're disciplined enough to stay invested for 10, 20, or even 30 years. Part 4. Spend on what you love, cut what you don't. Ramit Sethi's financial philosophy is very different from the usual harsh advice you hear about cutting back and living frugally. He doesn't tell you to pinch every penny, deny yourself small pleasures, or obsess over spreadsheets. Instead, he introduces the idea of conscious spending, deciding where your money goes with intention, instead of letting it slip away without noticing. In Ramit's view, a conscious spending plan isn't about tracking endless rows of numbers. It's about making clear choices. Spend extravagantly on the things that truly bring you joy, value, and meaning, and ruthlessly cut out the things you don't care about. For example, if travel excites you, go ahead and splurge on unforgettable trips, even business class flights. But if driving a brand new car or eating out every night doesn't matter to you, then cut those expenses entirely, without guilt. Many Americans get trapped in the cycle of keeping up with the Joneses, spending to keep pace with neighbors, friends, or social pressure. Someone buys a big house, so you feel you need one too. Someone drives a Tesla, so you think you should as well. Someone posts photos from an upscale restaurant, and you feel you have to match it just to not fall behind. But in reality, these expenses don't reflect your true values. They're consumer traps that pull you further away from financial freedom. Picture a young American couple with solid incomes. Instead of piling on debt to upgrade their car every 3 years, they decide to drive their old Toyota a few more years. With the money they save, they choose to fund trips around the world, experiences and memories that last a lifetime. That's the essence of Ramit's message. Spend lavishly on what you love and mercilessly cut what you don't. The core idea is this: wealth isn't about how much money sits in your account. It's about using money to live the life you truly want. Once you're clear on what matters most to you, spending becomes empowering instead of stressful. And for Ramit, that's the real path to lasting happiness and financial freedom. Part 5. Negotiating and increasing your income. In I Will Teach You to Be Rich, Ramit Sethi highlights a truth many people overlook. You can't just save your way to wealth. Cutting back on a few Starbucks lattes might save you a couple $100s a year, but increasing your income is the real lever. He calls these big wins, decisions or skills that can earn you tens of thousands of dollars over your lifetime, not just a few bucks each week. One of the most powerful big wins is negotiation. Many Americans shy away from negotiating because they fear rejection or think it will make them seem difficult. But Ramit shows that just one successful salary negotiation could add $5,000 to $10,000 a year to your income. And it doesn't stop there, because a higher starting salary compounds over time. Every future raise and bonus is based on that higher number. It's compound interest applied to your career. For example, imagine you're offered a tech job in San Francisco at $90,000 a year. If you accept without negotiating, you're locked into that number. But if you negotiate skillfully, backing it up with clear examples of your achievements and the value you bring, you might raise the offer to $100,000. That $10,000 difference may not sound like much at first, but multiply it over 10 to 15 years and you're looking at hundreds of thousands of dollars. And boosting income isn't just about your paycheck. Ramit also encourages people to explore side hustles, projects or part-time work outside your main job. Thanks to the digital economy, an average American can start a YouTube channel, sell products on Etsy, or freelance on platforms like Upwork. These income streams might start small, but over time they can grow into something sustainable or even replace your full-time job. Ramit's point is clear. Instead of obsessing over tiny savings, focus on the big decisions that truly move the needle. Negotiating your salary, seeking growth opportunities, or building an additional income stream, that's the path to real wealth, not stressing over the cost of your morning coffee. Part 6. Defining your own rich life. Ramit Sethi ends I Will Teach You to Be Rich with an important idea. Wealth isn't just about having more money, it's about living a rich life defined on your own terms. And for Ramit, no two people will have the same rich life. For some, it might mean traveling the world without worrying about expenses. For others, it could be the freedom to treat their parents to dinner at a fancy restaurant, or simply working fewer hours so they can spend more time with family. He emphasizes that money is just a tool, not the goal itself. If you don't know what you truly want, you'll get stuck in an endless chase. A bigger house, a nicer car, more zeros in your bank account, yet never feel satisfied. But once you clearly define what your rich life looks like, every financial decision becomes sharper. You'll spend meaningfully on what you deeply value and confidently cut out the rest. For example, one American family might define their rich life as taking their kids to Disney World every year, creating memories that last forever. Another person might see their rich life as working remotely from a beach in Hawaii as long as they can comfortably support their lifestyle. There's no right or wrong answer, only the one that's right for you. And that's the biggest message of the book. True wealth isn't the number in your account. It's the ability to live the life you want with freedom, peace of mind, and happiness. If you found these lessons valuable, make sure to hit like and subscribe so you don't miss more of the best books on money and personal growth. Your path to a rich life can start today.
Imagine having only $2 left in your bank account, no stable job, no idea where your future is headed. What would you do? Most of us would feel lost or even give up. But Grant Sabatier, the author of Financial Freedom, chose a different path. Starting from zero, he became a self-made millionaire in just 5 years, taking back control of his time and his life. Financial freedom isn't just about money. It's a roadmap, a journey that guides you toward true independence, where you can break free from the 9-to-5 grind. And in this video, you'll hear a concise, powerful, and inspiring audiobook summary drawn directly from the author's real-life experiences. If you're interested in mastering your finances and creating a freer life, don't forget to hit like and follow this channel. Join us as we continue exploring audiobook summaries of books that can change the way you think about money and your future. Part 1. Starting from zero. Grant Sabatier wasn't born into wealth. He faced the same struggles many young people in America can relate to. Graduating with a communications degree, carrying student loan debt, and barely having any money left in his bank account. One day, Grant opened his banking app and saw just $2.26. That tiny number, too small to even buy a cup of coffee at Starbucks, became the wake-up call that changed his life forever. At the time, Grant was living in a cramped rental apartment, unemployed, with no clear vision of the future. Most people in his situation would settle for a regular job, scrape by on a paycheck, pay off debt little by little, and simply survive. But Grant thought differently. He asked himself, is there a way not only to escape being broke, but to actually achieve financial freedom before I turn 30? That single question set him on an extraordinary journey. He threw himself into learning everything about making money, investing, and especially leveraging the power of the internet. Starting as a freelance web designer, Grant found ways to double and triple his income, eventually turning that small skill into a full-fledged digital marketing company. Within just 5 years, starting from zero, he not only paid off his debts, but also built a net worth of over $1.25 million, a number many people worked their entire lives without ever reaching. But the most remarkable part wasn't how much money he made, it was how he thought about money. Grant realized that money is just a tool, and the real treasure is time, the most valuable resource we have. He didn't want to spend his whole life running on the treadmill just to pay bills. He wanted freedom, the freedom to choose, the freedom to do work he loved, and the freedom to live life on his own terms. In financial freedom, Grant calls this the starting from zero stage, the moment you face your financial reality with complete honesty, no matter how harsh it may be, and then take action, not tomorrow, not someday, but today. Here lies the core truth. You don't have to be born rich to become wealthy. It all begins with how you manage every single dollar in your pocket, the discipline you practice, and the determination you fuel every day. Part 2. Redefining financial freedom. When people hear the phrase financial freedom, many instantly picture luxury mansions, flashy sports cars, traveling the world, and never having to worry about money again. But Grant Sabatier offers a completely different perspective. For him, financial freedom isn't about how much money you have in your bank account. It's about how much control you have over your time and the ability to shape your own life choices. Grant shared that in the early years of his career, he worked like a machine, 14 to 16 hours a day, taking on projects, racing against deadlines. The money started coming in, and his account was no longer stuck at $2.26. Yet, despite the financial progress, he still felt trapped. That's when Grant realized, if you have plenty of money but still don't control your time, you're not truly free. You've only moved to another basement level of the hamster wheel. To him, financial freedom is the power to say yes to the things you truly want and no to the things you don't. For example, not having to stay in a job you hate just for the paycheck, not working overtime just because your boss demands it, not giving up meaningful life experiences out of fear of the cost. Imagine this. Tomorrow morning, you wake up and can choose to stay home and read, take a short trip, start a passion project, or simply spend the entire day playing with your kids without worrying about rent, bills, or credit card debt. That is what true financial freedom looks like. One of Grant's key insights is this: wealth isn't measured by the money you make, but by the number of years you can comfortably live without working for money. In America, the average adult has only a few months of savings. That means if they lose their job, within 3 to 6 months, they're in crisis. But once you've built enough assets, you can buy yourself 5 years, 10 years, or even a lifetime of freedom. And that freedom, not the luxury items, is the real dream we're all chasing.
Part 3. The power of tracking expenses and valuing your time. One of the biggest turning points in Grant Sabatier's journey to financial freedom wasn't when he started making more money. It was when he sat down and looked closely at how he was spending it. Grant once said, "Your money reflects the values you choose to prioritize in life." And when he began tracking every expense, he was shocked to see how much of his money was simply evaporating on things that added little or no value. Take one example. He used to spend nearly $150 a month just on Starbucks coffee. Multiply that over 12 months, then over 10 years, and it adds up to more than $18,000. And if that money had been invested at an average 7% annual return, it could have grown to over $35,000, all from coffee. This led him to an important lesson. Every dollar you spend carries an invisible price tag, the time you had to work to earn it back. Grant called this the value of time,
For instance, if you earn $20 an hour and spend $200 on a pair of shoes, you're essentially selling 10 hours of your life for something you might wear a handful of times before tossing it in the closet. In America, a career builder survey found that nearly 80% of workers live paycheck to paycheck, spending as soon as they earn with no savings cushion. And for most, the problem isn't that they don't make enough, but that they don't know where their money is going. That's why Grant recommends starting with a simple step. Track every single dollar you spend. Write it down, take notes, or use a personal finance app. After just 30 days, you'll likely discover what almost everyone does. At least 20 to 30% of your spending is completely unnecessary. Once you see that, you start making smarter choices. You stop buying a shirt just because it's 50% off. You stop going on Amazon and accidentally adding a few extra items to your cart. You begin to view every purchase through a new lens. Is this truly worth my time? That's the real power of tracking expenses and understanding the value of time. It doesn't just save you money, it reshapes the way you see life itself. Grant realized that every dollar he saved wasn't just money. It was hours and days of freedom he was buying back for himself. And that mindset became the foundation for his journey from $2.26 to financial independence in just 5 years. Part 4. Extreme but smart saving. Once Grant understood where his money was going, he came to a powerful conclusion. It wasn't enough to just save. He had to save extremely and strategically. When Grant started his journey, he was 24 years old with only $2.26 left in his bank account. If he had saved just 5 or 10% of his income, it would have taken him decades to reach financial freedom. That pace wasn't fast enough. So Grant created a bold rule: save at least 50% of his income, sometimes even 70% during certain periods. It sounded crazy, but it was the strategy that shrank his timeline from 30 years down to just 5. The key was that Grant didn't simply cut everything out. He chose to save smart. For example, he downsized from an apartment to a smaller studio, saving more than $800 a month. Over 5 years, with investment growth, that added up to over $60,000. He sold his old gas-guzzling car and bought a fuel-efficient one, cutting nearly $200 a month in gas and maintenance. He stopped eating out and started cooking at home. A home-cooked meal cost $3 to $5 compared to $15 to $20 at a restaurant. With daily meals, that translated into thousands of dollars saved every year. But Grant didn't practice a kind of joyless austerity. He didn't cut out everything that made life meaningful. He still spent on experiences that mattered, like short trips or buying books, because those were investments in himself. The real secret was this: every dollar he saved, he reinvested immediately. Instead of letting money sit idle in a low-interest savings account, he funneled it into stocks, index funds, and online business ventures. That way, his money wasn't just being kept, it was multiplying. In America, many people believe you need to earn 6 figures a year to become wealthy. But in reality, research shows that your savings rate is the single biggest factor in how quickly you reach financial independence. Someone earning $50,000 but saving 50% can build wealth much faster than someone earning $100,000 but saving only 10%. As Grant emphasized, you don't need to live miserably, but you do need discipline. Every dollar you save today is a day of freedom in your future. Through this strategy of extreme but intelligent saving, Grant built up enough capital to invest aggressively, unlocking the real turning point in his 5-year path to financial independence.
Part 5. Increasing your income, the ultimate lever. If extreme saving is the first step to building capital, then increasing your income is the greatest lever to accelerate the journey to financial freedom. Grant realized a harsh truth: you can't save money that you haven't earned. If your monthly salary is only $3,000, then even saving 70% won't get you very far. The only way to speed things up is to make more. So what did Grant do? In 2010, he began learning web development, a skill that was booming in the US at the time.
At first, he took on small projects worth just a few $100s. But as he sharpened his skills, he quickly raised his rates. $5,000, then $10,000 for a single website. Within a few years, his income from web development had far surpassed his day job. Not stopping there, he used his free time to create multiple streams of income. He built a finance blog, got into affiliate marketing, and invested in rental properties. Each stream started small, but together they became a powerful financial engine. To put it in perspective, consider two scenarios. A typical American might save $10,000 a year from a $60,000 salary. After 10 years, without investing, they'd have $100,000. Grant, on the other hand, scaled his income to $200,000 a year through multiple income streams. By saving 50%, he accumulated $100,000 in just 1 year, compressing a decade into 12 months. The key wasn't simply working harder, but working smarter. Grant didn't take on 2 or 3 full-time jobs and burn out. Instead, he focused on high-leverage skills, technology, writing, and online marketing, fields that could scale income without requiring much more time. For example, one blog post took effort to write once, but if it attracted thousands of readers, it could generate ad revenue and affiliate commissions automatically, even while he slept. This was the digital age leverage Grant tapped into relentlessly. His message is clear. Don't just focus on cutting back expenses. Invest in yourself to increase your earning power. A new skill could add $10,000 to your yearly income, which is far more impactful than saving a few $100s by skipping coffee. Boosting your income doesn't just bring in more money. It brings confidence, freedom of choice, and the ability to invest at a higher level, all of which push you much faster toward financial independence. Part 6. Investing early and staying consistent. If saving and increasing income are the first 2 gears, then investing is the engine that drives you to financial freedom. Grant Sabatier emphasizes, you can't just let your money sit in a bank account, because over time, inflation quietly erodes its purchasing power. The only way to protect and grow your wealth is to invest. Grant started investing when he had just $5,000 in savings. It may not sound like much, but he understood that time is the most powerful weapon. Every dollar invested early in the stock market, if left long enough, can multiply many times over thanks to the power of compound interest. To put this into perspective, if you invest $10,000 in an S&P 500 index fund with an average annual return of 7%, after 30 years, you'll have more than $76,000. But if you wait 10 years to start, then after 20 years, that same $10,000 grows to only about $38,000. That's a nearly $40,000 difference just because you started later. Grant shared that he didn't chase hot stocks or gamble on the market. Instead, he focused on low-cost index funds that track the U.S. economy and deliver steady long-term growth. Most importantly, he stayed consistent, never pulling money out during downturns. In fact, many Americans lose money not because the market fails, but because they panic and sell at the worst possible times. Grant believed true wealth comes from holding steady and continuing to invest regularly no matter how volatile the market may be. For example, during the 2008 financial crisis, the S&P 500 dropped more than 50%, but those who held on until 2018 saw their investments triple in value. The lesson is clear: patience wins. Grant also took advantage of tax-advantaged retirement accounts in the U.S., like the 401k and Roth IRA. These tools allowed him to invest, save on taxes, and accelerate his wealth building all at once. What makes the difference isn't how much you make in a single day, but how many years you consistently put your money to work. Investing is like planting seeds. You can't expect a tree to grow overnight, but if you keep planting and nurturing, one day you'll have a financial forest big enough to sustain you for life.
Part 7. Psychological and lifestyle traps. Have you ever noticed that as your income goes up, your spending tends to rise as well? This is one of the biggest psychological traps on the road to financial freedom, something called lifestyle inflation. Grant Sabatier himself once fell into this trap. As his income grew quickly, he began spending more, buying nicer cars, dining at fancier restaurants, and constantly upgrading his tech gadgets. But eventually, he realized that this cycle of consumption had no finish line. Even though he was making more money, the happiness it brought never lasted. In America, this is especially common. When people get a raise or a bonus, instead of saving or investing it, they immediately upgrade their lifestyle, moving into a pricier apartment, buying a new car, or splurging on luxury goods. The short-term satisfaction feels good, but it traps them in the endless loop of make more, spend more, keeping them from ever reaching true financial independence. Grant also warned about the danger of comparison. In the age of social media, when someone posts vacation photos from Hawaii, shows off their new Tesla, or flaunts a beautiful home, it's easy to feel the urge to keep up. To do so, many people borrow money or spend what they should be investing, digging themselves deeper into financial stress. One survey in the US found that over 60% of workers live paycheck to paycheck, with almost no emergency savings. The problem isn't that they don't make money, it's that they spend it all trying to prove themselves rather than building real freedom. Grant emphasizes that financial freedom doesn't come from how many expensive things you own, but from the choices you have with your time. Someone living in a modest apartment, driving an old car, but with a $500,000 investment account is far freer than someone in a mansion with a luxury car, but drowning in debt. So how do you avoid these traps? Grant offers 2 strategies. First, redefine the true value of money. Before making a purchase, ask yourself, will this expense bring me closer to financial freedom? If the answer is no, think twice. Second, practice delayed gratification. Instead of buying something the moment you want it, wait 30 days. If you still genuinely need it after that time, then buy it. This simple habit eliminates most impulsive spending. Ultimately, Grant reminds us that true wealth lies in experiences, not possessions. Trips, quality time with family, and days when you don't have to answer to anyone, that's the kind of happiness that lasts. In other words, to reach financial freedom, it's not just about earning more, saving more, and investing more, it's also about spending wisely and resisting the temptations of modern lifestyle traps. Part 8. The personalized journey to financial freedom. One of the biggest lessons Grant Sabatier emphasizes in financial freedom is that there isn't a single path to financial independence. When he first started his journey, he believed he had to follow a strict formula, save aggressively, invest heavily in the stock market, and cut out every unnecessary expense. But over time, he realized that financial freedom isn't just a number in your bank account, it's about having the freedom to live life on your own terms and choosing the path that fits you best. In the US, some people pursue FIRE, financial independence, retire early, saving 50 to 70% of their income so they can retire decades earlier than most. Others aim for Coast FIRE, saving and investing enough early on so they can later work less stressful jobs without worrying about money. Some choose Barista FIRE, continuing to work part-time, often to keep health insurance benefits, while letting financial independence cover the rest of their lifestyle. The point is clear. Financial freedom is not a one-size-fits-all destination. It's a journey you have to define for yourself. For Grant, it wasn't just about having a few $1 million in the bank, it was flexibility, being able to live according to his values, spend quality time with family, and do work he truly enjoys, like writing, teaching, and helping others. He shares the story of a couple he once coached. They didn't want to retire early, nor did they care about having a $5 million portfolio. What they wanted was simple: to spend every summer traveling across Europe with their kids. So their financial strategy revolved around that goal: building a travel fund, investing enough for long-term security, and keeping stable jobs. For them, that was financial freedom. The most important reminder, Grant says, is that money is only a tool, not the ultimate goal. If you chase numbers for their own sake, you risk forgetting why you wanted financial freedom in the first place. Everyone needs to sit down and ask, what do I truly want my life to look like? How much time do I want for family, friends, and personal passions? Once you have those answers, your financial plan becomes far clearer. Grant also warns that the journey will never be a straight line. Markets will crash, jobs will be lost, and life will throw unexpected challenges your way. But if you stick to your principles, build an emergency cushion, and stay grounded in what really matters, no setback can destroy your foundation of financial freedom. In the end, Grant closes with a powerful message. Financial freedom is not a distant dream. It's possible for anyone, no matter if you're starting from zero, as long as you begin today. Because every day you wait is another day you give up the chance to build the future freedom you deserve. Dear friend, we've just walked together through the entire journey that Grant Sabatier experienced and shared in Financial Freedom. From starting with just a couple of dollars in his pocket to reaching financial independence at such a young age, his story proves one powerful truth. Financial freedom is not a distant dream. It's something you can achieve as long as you choose to start today. You've seen the power of tracking every dollar, the value of time, the importance of saving wisely, the leverage of increasing your income, and the enduring strength of long-term investing. You've discovered that financial freedom has no single formula. It's a personalized journey where you decide the life you want and make money a tool to serve that vision. If you've made it this far, I believe there's already a spark within you, a spark that longs to live a free life, unshackled from the constant worry of money. Remember, if you simply take the first step today, then with each passing day, you'll be moving closer to the life you've always dreamed of. And if you found this book valuable, don't forget to like and follow the channel so you won't miss more audiobook summaries of powerful books that can transform your mindset about money, not just to build wealth, but to truly take ownership of your life. Because financial freedom begins with knowledge, and today, you've just gained a lot more of it.
Have you ever wondered why some people earn millions of dollars yet still struggle to get by, while others with average incomes manage to live comfortably and stress-free? Money might seem like nothing more than numbers, simple addition and subtraction, but in reality, it's shaped far more by our emotions, luck, habits, and even the deep-seated fears within us. Morgan Housel, the author of The Psychology of Money, points out a powerful truth. No one is truly crazy when it comes to money. We all act based on our own unique experiences. And that explains why Americans spend over $1.3 trillion every year on things they don't really need just to impress people they don't even know. In this journey, we'll explore timeless yet powerful principles about money, from luck and risk to the magic of compounding, and most importantly, the freedom that money can bring. This isn't just a book about financial management, it's a book about how to think, so you can live wealthier, wiser, and with greater peace of mind. Don't forget to hit like and follow the channel so you won't miss out on more great books about money, finance, and personal growth. Part 1. Money and Emotions: Why No One is Truly Crazy. When it comes to money, we often assume that every decision should be based on logic, calculations, and clear numbers, but reality looks very different. If you take a closer look at people's financial behavior, you'll see it doesn't resemble math at all. It looks much more like psychology. Let me tell you a story. There was an American man born in 1940. His childhood unfolded in the years right after World War II, when the U.S. economy was booming. Between 1945 and 1970, the stock market kept climbing steadily, and real estate seemed to have only one direction: up.
To him, investing was simply obvious, like a money printing machine. All you had to do was put in capital and patiently wait. He grew up believing that risk was temporary, but profits would always come to those who stayed the course. Now let's look at another person born in 1975. This person came to age right as the US stock market collapsed in the early 2000s when the dot-com bubble burst. And before they could recover, 2008 arrived, the year of the financial crisis. Lehman Brothers went bankrupt, 8 million people lost their jobs, 6 million families lost their homes, and the average American household saw nearly 40% of its wealth vanish. For this generation, investing wasn't an opportunity, it was a wound. To them, holding cash felt safe, while stocks and real estate were nothing more than dangerous gambles. This reveals an important truth. No one is truly crazy in how they view money. Each of us acts according to our personal experiences, the memories etched into our childhoods and our lives. Gallup statistics confirm this. Before the 2008 financial crisis, about 65% of Americans owned stocks. After the crash, that number dropped to just 52%, and even more than a decade later, it still hasn't returned to previous levels. In other words, an entire generation reshaped its approach to investing simply because they saw with their own eyes their parents lose everything. That's why two friends, living in the same city, working the same job, earning similar incomes, can use their money in completely different ways. One may dive headfirst into the stock market, convinced that risk is simply the price of reward. The other might stash most of their assets in savings accounts, convinced that safety is what matters most. And both of them are right in their own way. Housel offers an interesting perspective. We often judge others as foolish or ignorant when we look at how they handle money. But if you stepped into their shoes, with their personal history, the events they lived through, you'd see that their actions actually make perfect sense. The problem is, we can never live through someone else's experiences. So instead of mocking or judging, it's better to accept this. Money is tied to emotions, to memories, to unique life experiences that cannot be repeated. And once you understand this, you'll stop looking for a universal formula that works for everyone. There is no one-size-fits-all solution. There's only the approach that fits you, your past, your beliefs, and your story. Part 2. Luck, Risk, and the idea of never enough. When it comes to financial success, we often hear the glorious stories. Warren Buffett with his legendary vision, Elon Musk boldly taking risks with Tesla and SpaceX, or Jeff Bezos building Amazon out of a tiny garage. Hearing stories like these, many people believe success is purely about talent and hard work. But Morgan Housel reminds us, luck and risk play a much bigger role than most of us realize. Take Bill Gates as an example. Everyone knows him as the genius behind Microsoft, but few pay attention to how much of his story began with the school he attended. In 1968, Lakeside School in Seattle, Washington, where Gates studied, was one of the very few high schools in America with a time-sharing computer terminal. Back then, computers were so rare and expensive that even top universities didn't have them. If Bill Gates hadn't had access to a computer at just 13 years old, would Microsoft exist today? It's hard to say. Warren Buffett, the world's fourth richest man, openly admitted, "If I had been born in a different country or in a different era, I might never have become an investor. I was simply lucky to be born at the right time in the right place." But luck is only half the story. Risk is always lurking too. Remember Lehman Brothers in 2008? It was one of the largest investment banks on Wall Street, with a history spanning 158 years. And yet, in just a few months, it collapsed completely, dragging the entire US economy into crisis. Thousands of employees lost their jobs. Millions of families lost their homes. For many, this wasn't a matter of personal mistakes, but systemic risk, something entirely outside their control. Housel uses these stories to emphasize a point. When you look at someone's success or failure, never separate luck and risk from the picture.
A 2018 study from Stanford University analyzed thousands of billionaires and self-made millionaires in America. The results showed that beyond hard work and discipline, the timing of when they entered the market, whether during an economic boom or in a rising industry, was a decisive factor. In other words, a big part of success came down to being lucky in the historical moment. This leads us to an important lesson. Be humble in success and compassionate in the face of others' failures, because you never really know everything they've been through. Your success may carry the imprint of a unique opportunity others never had, and their failure may be the result of an unexpected risk they couldn't control. Housel's advice is clear. Instead of trying to copy a billionaire's story, learn to accept uncertainty. Understand that you can't completely eliminate luck or risk from the money game, but you can prepare your mindset. When you succeed, don't get arrogant. When you fail, don't get bitter. At the end of the day, money is not just about numbers. It's a game of probability, where luck and risk work together to shape our destiny. Key takeaway from this chapter: humility is the safety valve of financial thinking. It keeps you grounded when you win, and it keeps you from despair when you lose.
Part 3. The Power of Compounding. There's a famous story about Warren Buffett, the legendary investor everyone knows. Today, his net worth is over $100 billion. But here's the surprising part. Most of that wealth didn't come from brilliant, once-in-a-lifetime investments, as many people assume. It came from compound interest over time. Let me share a number that might shock you. Buffett began investing at just 10 years old. By the age of 30, he was already worth more than $1 million, a massive sum back in the 1960s. But the key is this: he didn't stop. He kept investing, letting money work for him decade after decade. And here's the most astonishing fact. 99% of Buffett's wealth was accumulated after he turned 50. What does this mean? If Buffett had started his investing career at 30 instead of 10, even with the same intelligence and skill, his fortune today would likely be just a fraction of what it is. In the world of finance, people are often obsessed with chasing high returns. They run after hot stocks, cryptocurrencies, or startups that might grow tenfold. But the truth is this: the rate of return matters far less than the amount of time you let your money grow. Imagine you have $10,000. If you invest it at 10% annual returns for 10 years, you'll end up with about $25,937. If you simply leave it for 30 years, it grows to $174,494. And if you stay patient for 50 years, it skyrockets to nearly $1.2 million. All because of one simple formula. Compounding equals returns multiplied by time. A 2018 Fidelity report revealed a fascinating case. The investors with the best performing retirement accounts were often the ones who had actually forgotten they even had an account. They didn't withdraw, didn't trade constantly, they just left their money alone and let compounding work. By contrast, those who tried to outsmart the market with frequent buying and selling usually ended up with worse results. What makes compounding magical isn't complex math, it's patience. You don't need to be a genius or a market wizard. You simply need to put your money to work, nurture it, and let time transform small sums into massive wealth. Morgan Housel calls this the magic of patience. It's like planting a tree. In the first year, you hardly notice any change. But after 20 or 30 years, that same tree can shade an entire garden. The lesson? Don't just focus on chasing big short-term gains. What you really need is to start early, stay consistent, and let compounding do the heavy lifting. Part 4. Getting rich versus staying rich. Getting rich is one thing, but staying rich, that's an entirely different story, and often the harder challenge.
Morgan Housel explains that to build wealth, you often need courage, a willingness to take risks, ambition, and even a bit of recklessness. But to keep wealth, the recipe is almost the opposite. You need humility, a healthy sense of fear, caution, and most importantly, the wisdom to know when to stop. Take lottery winners in America, for example. Studies show that more than 70% of jackpot winners end up broke within just 5 years. Why? Because they never learned how to manage and protect wealth. They assumed the money would keep flowing forever, so they spent recklessly, invested blindly, or became easy targets for people looking to take advantage of them. Staying rich requires a completely different mindset. It isn't about one brilliant decision. It's about discipline, repeated day after day. Warren Buffett once said that the reason he became one of the wealthiest people in the world wasn't just because he knew how to invest. It was because he never let himself go broke. One of his golden rules is rule number 1, never lose money. Rule number 2, never forget rule number 1. The 2008 financial crisis illustrates this perfectly. Many people who had been wealthy before the crash lost everything because of greed. They poured their money into high-risk bets, never knowing when to pull back. And when the market collapsed, their fortunes vanished in a matter of months. On the other hand, the people who remained truly wealthy weren't necessarily those who made the fastest gains, but those who still had their capital intact when the storm passed. The lesson here is simple, but critical. To become wealthy, you need bravery, but to stay wealthy, you need prudence. Don't just ask yourself, how can I make more? Always ask, how can I make sure what I have today is still here tomorrow and continues to grow? Part 5. Freedom, the ultimate goal of money. If there's one thing we all truly crave from money, it's not supercars, mansions, or fancy dinners. The ultimate goal of money is freedom. Morgan Housel emphasizes this. True wealth isn't measured by the number in your bank account. It's measured by the control you have over your own time. Real wealth is being able to wake up in the morning and decide what you want to do, with whom you want to do it, and when you want to do it. That is the highest form of wealth. Consider a well-known study in the US on life satisfaction. Researchers found that once people earn enough to cover their basic needs, happiness doesn't increase much with higher income, unless that income brings more control over their time. A surgeon might earn $1 million a year, but if they're working 16 hours a day with no time for family, they'll likely feel trapped. Meanwhile, a teacher earning $60,000 a year, who has summers off and afternoons free to spend with his kids, may feel far more free and content. Another striking example is Ronald Reed, a gas station attendant in Vermont. He lived simply, saved diligently, and invested for the long term. When he passed away, he left over $8 million to charity. But what made him truly wealthy wasn't just the money. It was the fact that he lived life on his own terms, free from pressure, free from competition, choosing a life of peace and independence. The real insight here is this: we often think money will buy happiness, but in reality, money's greatest value is when it buys freedom. The freedom to rest when you're tired, the freedom to be with your family when they need you, the freedom to say no to things that go against your values. Housel's lesson is crystal clear. Make freedom your highest goal when it comes to money. Because at the end of the day, you don't live to prove your wealth to others. You live to experience peace and happiness in your own life.
Part 6. Saving, Humility, and the Surprises of the Future. One of the greatest secrets of lasting wealth isn't how much you earn, it's how much you keep. Saving is the foundation of financial freedom, and it comes down to two things: living with humility and preparing for life's inevitable surprises. In America, Many high-income earners still end up drowning in debt. A software engineer in Silicon Valley might make $150,000 a year, but if they buy $1 million house, drive luxury cars, and live extravagantly, they'll have little left at the end of the month. Meanwhile, a middle-class family earning $60,000 a year, if they live modestly and save 30% of their income, can quickly build an emergency fund and invest for a more secure future. Morgan Housel emphasizes this point. Saving doesn't depend on your salary, it depends on your habits and humility. Too many Americans are trapped in the rat race. The more they earn, the more they spend, chasing validation and status. Yet the people who remain truly wealthy are often the most unassuming. Warren Buffett, one of the world's most famous billionaires, still lives in the same house he bought in 1958 for just $31,000. His fortune wasn't built solely on brilliant investments. It was built on humility and frugality. And then there's the future, always full of surprises. The 2008 financial crisis wiped out millions of jobs and homes because so many people live paycheck to paycheck without savings. The COVID pandemic told the same story. Those with strong emergency funds got through it far more easily, while those relying solely on monthly income struggled immediately. Saving isn't just about stashing money away. It's about buying security and buying the freedom of choice for your future. With a safety net, you no longer live in fear of every unexpected twist. Living humbly frees you from social pressure and allows you to focus on what really matters: freedom, security, and long-term happiness. The message is clear. Don't let your income define how wealthy you feel. Let your ability to save, your humility, and your preparedness for an uncertain future define it instead. Part 7. People and the paradox of money. Money seems simple. You earn it, you spend it, you save it, you invest it. But as Morgan Housel argues, in reality, money is a psychological game, and people themselves are the most complex part of that game. The paradox is this: we know rationally what we should do, yet our emotions often drag us in the opposite direction. Take the U.S. stock market during the 2008-2009 financial crisis. Millions of investors panicked and sold their stocks at rock-bottom prices. They knew, at least in theory, that staying invested would be wiser. But fear took over, leading to costly mistakes. A decade later, when the market had not only recovered but soared to new highs, many realized they had missed the chance to multiply their wealth, all because they couldn't master their emotions. Another paradox: we often judge someone's wealth by what we see, without knowing the hidden reality. In America, you might see a man driving a brand new Tesla Model S and living in a 5,000 square foot home and assume he's wealthy. The truth might be that he's buried in debt, making high interest payments every month. Meanwhile, another person drives a 10-year-old Toyota Camry, lives modestly, yet quietly holds $1 million in retirement accounts, something no one ever notices. Housel emphasizes, real wealth isn't what you flaunt, it's what you build quietly behind the scenes. That's the paradox of money. Society glorifies the visible, while true financial security lives in the invisible: patience, discipline, and sustainable habits. The story of Ronald Read is a timeless example. He was a gas station attendant in Vermont, living an unassuming life that made people think he had very little. But when he passed away at the age of 92, he left behind $8 million for charity and family. He didn't win the lottery, he didn't gamble on risky ventures, he simply lived humbly, saved consistently, and invested patiently in stocks for decades. His life is proof of the paradox. Those who are truly wealthy often don't look wealthy at all.
Part 8. The final lesson: money is a tool, not the goal. After all the stories, lessons, and paradoxes, Morgan Housel asks us to pause and recognize a simple truth. Money is only a tool. It is not the ultimate goal of life. In America, countless stories exist of billionaires who spent their entire lives accumulating wealth, climbing the Forbes list, acquiring more companies, buying more real estate. But in the end, they still face the same question: did I live for money, or did I use money to live better?
Money cannot replace family, it cannot replace health, and it cannot buy genuine happiness. What it can do is serve as a means to achieve freedom, peace of mind, and the opportunity to live life on your own terms. Housel points out that many Americans rush into the wealth race as if money were the finish line. But the paradox is this: when they finally arrive, they often feel empty because they turned money into the destination rather than the vehicle. Think of it simply. A car can take you from point A to point B, but it doesn't define who you are. Likewise, money can pay your mortgage, send your kids to school, care for your parents, and build a secure life. But if you treat money as the sole meaning of existence, you will never feel satisfied. And this is the book's greatest message. Let money serve your life. Don't let your life become a servant to money. True wealth isn't measured by the balance in your bank account. It's measured by the peace, freedom, and fulfillment that money, when used wisely, can bring. Dear friends, we've now reached the end of our journey through The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel. Across 8 chapters, we've discovered that money is not just numbers. It's a game of emotions, of patience, and above all, of how we choose to view life. We've learned that true wealth isn't about how much you earn, but how much you keep. And most importantly, money should serve our freedom and happiness, not the other way around. When we understand this, we finally take control of money instead of letting it control us. If this book has given you fresh perspectives and valuable lessons, don't forget to hit like and follow the channel. In the coming weeks, we'll continue bringing you audiobooks of powerful titles, books that can reshape your financial mindset, transform the way you look at money, and maybe even change the course of your life. So stay with us on this journey of learning and growth, and let every day bring you closer to the freedom and success you truly deserve. Thank you for listening, and see you in the next audiobook.
Have you ever wondered why so many Americans work hard their entire lives, save every penny, and still end up struggling to live comfortably in retirement? Sounds familiar? Most of us believe that to build wealth, we need to outsmart the market, pick the right stocks, or time it perfectly. But the truth is, most people don't fail because they're not smart enough. They fail because they lack patience and a simple, consistent strategy. In Just Keep Buying, Nick Maggiulli delivers a crystal clear message. Stop trying to predict the market, stop waiting for luck, just keep buying, stay disciplined, and let time do the heavy lifting for you. This isn't some far-fetched theory, it's a method that has been proven over decades in the real world. So, if you want to learn how to turn every small dollar into a bigger opportunity and build lasting wealth over time, this video is for you. And before we dive in, make sure to hit like and subscribe so you don't miss more life-changing books on money and mindset. Part 1. Earning and Saving. Nick Maggiulli emphasizes that before you even think about investing, you need to build a steady stream of income and learn how to save wisely. It sounds simple, but this is the crucial step that many people overlook. Too often, we get caught up chasing the smartest investment tricks or the next get-rich-quick scheme, forgetting that without money to invest, none of it matters. The core idea here is this: you don't need to live extremely frugal, but you do need to save consistently and stay disciplined. Maggiulli calls this building a strong financial foundation. The more money you have available to invest, the greater your opportunity to let compounding work its magic over time. Here's a relatable example for many Americans. Let's say you work a 9-to-5 job and earn $4,000 a month. Instead of just leaving your paycheck in a bank account and spending freely, you could set aside 15% every month for investing, while also looking for ways to grow your income, like learning new skills, picking up freelance projects, or exploring small business opportunities. After just a few years, that discipline of saving and boosting your income could give you a solid investment fund without gambling on hot stocks or Bitcoin. Another powerful example comes from the COVID-19 era. Many people lost their jobs, but instead of waiting around for unemployment checks, some used that time to learn new online skills and earn extra income through platforms like Etsy, Fiverr, or even TikTok. Those small amounts of money, when saved and invested consistently, became a financial cushion that not only helped them survive the crisis, but also set them up for long-term growth. The key takeaway from this section is simple. Before thinking about investing or getting rich quick, make sure you've created a steady cash flow and developed disciplined saving habits. This is the very first step, the foundation that makes Maggiulli's principle of just keep buying possible. Buy consistently and let time do the rest for you. Part 2. Consistent investing, also known as dollar cost averaging. Nick Maggiulli emphasizes that one of the most powerful principles for building lasting wealth is investing consistently, no matter whether the market is up or down. This is the strategy known as dollar cost averaging, or DCA. Instead of trying to time the market and buy at the bottom, you simply invest a fixed amount on a regular basis, letting the ups and downs average out over time. Why does this work so well? Because the stock market is impossible to predict with precision, and most attempts to buy the dip or sell at the top end in failure. By sticking to a steady schedule of investing, you can steadily grow your wealth without the stress of guessing the market and reduce the risks that come with short-term volatility. Here's a real-world example. Warren Buffett, the legendary investor, has often said that his best advice for most people is this: just buy an S&P 500 index fund regularly, no matter what the market is doing, and let time do the rest for you. Buffett doesn't rely on predicting the market. He relies on patience and long-term compounding. Now, let's look at an everyday example that's closer to home. Chris, an office worker in Denver, set aside $200 a week into an index fund starting at age 25. Through the 2008 financial crisis and the COVID-19 crash in 2020, he never stopped his regular contributions. By the time Chris turned 35, his portfolio had grown several times, giving him the financial foundation to buy a home and even start a small business. Maggiulli's point is clear. You don't need to outsmart the market or chase hot stocks. All you need is persistence. By consistently investing, the average returns over time will make you the winner. The principle of just keep buying represents patience and the power of time, two forces that most people underestimate. Key takeaway: sustainable wealth doesn't come from luck or clever tricks. It comes from steady contributions, patience, and letting time work in your favor.
Part 3. Cash and investing. Nick Maggiulli stresses that while it's important to keep some cash on hand for emergencies, you shouldn't let too much of your money just sit idle. Inflation eats away at purchasing power over time. Your cash should act as a safety net for unexpected events like job loss, home repairs, or sudden medical bills, while the rest should be invested so your money can grow. Here's a real-world example. Suze Orman, one of America's most well-known personal finance experts, has long recommended that every household keep 3 to 6 months of living expenses in an emergency fund. She once shared the story of a client who suddenly lost their job, but because they had that cushion, they didn't have to rely on high-interest debt, and they were still able to keep investing in the stock market regularly. Maggiulli also warns against a common mistake: hoarding too much cash. Over the long run, markets tend to grow, and those who sit on too much cash end up missing out on the wealth-building potential of stocks, index funds, or real estate. Take another example: Patrick O'Shaughnessy, investor and CEO of O'Shaughnessy Asset Management, explained that he always keeps enough cash to stay flexible, but the majority of his wealth is invested for the long term. When the market dropped sharply in 2020, he stayed disciplined, kept buying at lower prices, and his portfolio recovered quickly as the market bounced back. Key takeaway: smart cash management means holding just enough for safety, but not so much that you miss out on long-term growth opportunities. Striking that balance is one of the key principles for building sustainable wealth over time. Part 4. housing, debt, and major life decisions. Nick Maggiulli emphasizes that the big decisions in life, buying a house, taking on debt, or investing in large assets, need to be made carefully because they have long-term effects on your cash flow and investing ability. Many Americans fall into the trap of treating their home as their only investment, often borrowing too much. But the truth is, buying a house isn't always the best path to building wealth. Here's a great example. Grant Sabatier, author of Financial Freedom, shared that after graduating college, he chose to rent instead of buying right away. That decision allowed him to save and invest more in index funds and other income-producing assets. Within just 5 years, he reached financial independence, much earlier than many of his peers who were tied down with large mortgages. When it comes to debt, Maggiulli makes it clear that debt isn't always bad if managed wisely. Borrowing to invest in education, start a business, or buy a reasonably priced home can generate returns far greater than the interest you pay. Take Barbara Corcoran, the well-known real estate investor from Shark Tank. She started her business with a small loan and turned it into a real estate empire worth hundreds of millions of dollars. By using debt strategically, she transformed risk into opportunity. But Maggiulli issues a warning. Excessive borrowing to chase a high-end lifestyle can choke your cash flow and make long-term investing nearly impossible. For example, many young American families stretch themselves thin by buying luxury cars or homes beyond their means, which leads to financial stress and lost opportunities for wealth building. Key takeaway: think carefully about major financial decisions, manage debt strategically, and focus your resources on things that create lasting value. These choices directly impact your ability to apply the just keep buying principle and build sustainable wealth over time.
Part 5. When to spend and when to save. Nick Maggiulli reminds us that money isn't just for accumulating, it's also for living a better life today. A common mistake people make is delaying happiness, focusing only on saving and investing for the future while forgetting that the present matters too. The principle here is balance, knowing when to spend to enhance your experiences and when to hold on to money for long-term growth. Here's a real example. Chris Hogan, author of Retire Inspired, told the story of a young family in Texas who chose to set aside a small part of their monthly income for family experiences, traveling, extracurricular classes for their kids, or simply dining out together. These expenses didn't break their budget, but they did strengthen their financial discipline while creating memories and joy. Things money can't buy if it just sits in an account. Another example, Jenna, a startup founder in San Francisco, instead of saving all of her first profits, set aside a small portion to attend an international conference and connect with investors. That seemingly minor expense opened doors to partnerships and business growth, showing that smart spending can deliver a double benefit, enriching life experiences while also creating financial opportunities. Maggiulli stresses that money should be used wisely, not wasted, but also not left idle for too long. People who find the right balance between spending and saving get the best of both worlds, enjoying the present and building for the future. Key takeaway: spend money to improve your quality of life, but always maintain balance so you don't miss out on long-term investment opportunities. When you know when to hold and when to spend, you'll experience true financial freedom and enjoy life more fully. Part 6. Your financial future. Nick Maggiulli emphasizes that lasting wealth doesn't come from lucky breaks or high-risk bets. It comes from discipline, patience, and a long-term strategy. The core principle of just keep buying is simple. Invest consistently, hold for the long run, and let time do the heavy lifting for you. This is the path to wealth that most people overlook. A powerful example comes from Jack Bogle, founder of Vanguard and creator of the very first index fund. He consistently preached that long-term investing, staying patient, and avoiding the temptation to time the market is the true road to success. Those who followed his advice for decades, steadily buying into something like an S&P 500 index fund, have achieved sustainable wealth. Here's a more relatable story. Emily,
a teacher in Boston, set aside $100 every week into an index fund right after graduating. She didn't chase hot stocks, and she didn't sell when the market dipped. She simply stayed disciplined for 10 straight years. The result? That modest habit grew into enough wealth for a down payment on a home and a college fund for her kids. This shows clearly that time and discipline, not luck, are the strongest allies of money. Maggiulli also warns that many people get swept up in hot investment trends, from crypto to NFTs to flashy startups, forgetting that most of these come with extreme risk and little long-term stability. By contrast, sticking with a steady, diversified, long-term strategy helps you ride out market shocks and harness the true power of compounding. Key takeaway: sustainable wealth doesn't require outsmarting the market. It requires patience, discipline, and a clear strategy. If you start today, keep buying consistently, and don't panic when the market swings, you'll build a rock-solid financial foundation for your future. Life and money are not a game of chance. They're a journey of patience, discipline, and the small choices you make every day. Nick Maggiulli reminds us that you don't need to be a genius investor or predict the market with perfect accuracy. What truly matters is investing consistently, saving wisely, and letting time do the rest. Always remember, money is a tool, not the ultimate goal. Knowing when to spend to enjoy life and when to save and invest for the long term will allow you to build both wealth and true freedom. Those small, consistent investments over time can grow into a strong financial foundation, enough to live comfortably, care for your family, and enjoy life without regrets. If you found this video valuable, don't forget to hit like and subscribe so you won't miss more books that can transform the way you think about money and life.